at Amaroo Park, we're getting geared up for a really big meeting this afternoon. The big fella Mike Raymond, in fact, is busy right at this moment putting together some great motorsport stories that you'll be seeing in our telecast. And the cars are on the track and getting set for an event that we're going to bring you in just a few moments. It's a heat, a 5-lap heat of the Formula Fords, and Warwick Rooklyn is on pole position in track record time. But the big attraction here today, of course, is round 4, 3 heats of it, for the Better Brakes AMSCAR Series. And that's a tale in itself, because the two that are carrying out the head-on confrontation in the National Touring Car Championship, namely Volvo and Nissan, share the front row of the grid for the 4th round of the Better Brakes Series here today, with John Bauer on pole position for Volvo and Glenn Seaton representing Nissan. But both of them are going to have their work cut out here this afternoon, with the likes of Jim Richards, Colin Bond parked right in behind them and threatening to give them some curry indeed. But the Formula Fords are just about set to go. Flag is up. Warwick Rooklyn on pole in the Triple M FM stereo entry, track record time 52.51 in qualifying. Alongside him, the veteran Richard Carter. Away they go. 5 laps for Formula Fords, guaranteed for action here at Amaroo Park. Streaming up to the top of the hill, first time, and over the top, we'll see who wins the battle for the lead. And it looks like Richard Carter's got it by a big space.
Yeah, he's rushed up the top of the hill first time over and opened up a huge gap, Gary. Jeff Walters up into 2nd place in the Logan Holmes entry, car number 2.
Then Rooklyn.
Yes, Rooklyn up into 3rd place, so he's in fact dropped away a little bit from having pole position in the Triple M entry, and that hasn't been a good start for him. Field through the left-hander, Andrew Gubb, car number 22. Gary Jones up into 4th place. And what an enormous entry of Formula Fords in this field.
22 starters in all, and Richard Carter really showing them something. He's been around a long time, Richard Carter, driving a Maytech. Enjoys the competition. Well, there isn't too much competition at the moment with 1 lap down.
Gap already 1.5 seconds between Carter and Walters, mag wheel manufacturer from Wollongong. And Carter in the rather old Maytech continues to astound us by demoralising the opposition. They're more modern types of cars. Rooklyn coming under pressure at the moment from Jones in car 77. Warwick, of course, is the leader of the Formula Ford Driver to Europe Series in Australia at the moment. Series in its midway point. And Jones breathing right down the back of the gearbox. And now goes through on the inside, and Jones picks up 1 more spot, goes to 3rd placing.
I don't know what's happened to Rooklyn. He, as I said, qualified in 52.51, but in fact, in practice here on Thursday, clocked a 52.4. He is the lap record holder anyway at 52.9, but he just doesn't seem to be on the pace at all.
He's having another go on the outside, across the top of the hill at Nissan, and the car's getting sideways, so Rooklyn wants to argue.
Peter Varane just in behind that pair in car 88, the Van Diemen. And then Andrew Gubb in the car 22, a Royale. But for all the many and varied names, the car's basically identical in terms of performance. Well, driving performance is a little different in this race. These pair having quite a dice among themselves, but up front, you can see there on car 77, the framework on the left of the car there is to hold race cam. You can bet your life that's going to provide some spectacular pictures later on.
Rooklyn again having a go now for 3rd position as we go back to our leader, Richard Carter, with now less than 2 laps remaining.
How many years has Richard Carter been racing this formula?
Well, he's been in and out of the formula. In fact, he had a break for a while, but all up, I guess it's been somewhere in the order of around about 10 years experience in motor racing. And last year we welcomed him back. Of course, he carried race cam for us for 7 Sport. We saw some spectacular pictures at the Amaroo Park round, I think, Wilco, where we had the camera down on the front of the car and the thing spun off in the S's. But as we've said on a number of occasions, it's an older style of car, older than this one here, the Elwyn, being driven by Jeffrey Walters. Now, coming up for 1 lap to go. This car built and designed by an Australian, Elwyn Bickley. Very low, very flat, slippery through the air, but still can't catch the Maytech.
Gary Jones still holding down 3rd place, forestalling that challenge from Warwick Rooklyn. And that's been the surprise of this race, the fact that the top three have been able to have such a call over Warwick Rooklyn, the fastest qualifier.
These cars are all 1600cc, four-cylinder, single camshaft pushrod engines.
Carter coming around on his final lap. He'll better watch it at the lake corner. There is a car in the wall over there. It won't leave too much room to get round. He's coming down towards that corner now for the last time. Easy does it. He's got a reasonable lead. Walter's closing up under brakes as they go into the turn. Here they go. They negotiate that bend, get past the car in the wall, no trouble. And it's going to be Richard Carter that's going to come through and take the checkered flag. In fact, he's done it very, very easily. Walters in second place, and Jones, in fact, has tied up third spot. Well, that was a pretty easy victory, Neil Crompton, for Richard Carter. I'm surprised.
Sensational drive from him. I wouldn't have expected to see such a performance from him so early in the day. I guess the man that's also fairly disappointed is Warwick Rooklyn.
Yeah, sure. That's just a sample of the action you're going to be seeing on our program here from Amaroo Park this afternoon. The highlight, as I said, will be 3 heats of round 4 of the Better Breaks AMSCAR Series here. Our telecast commences at 1 o'clock. Don't miss it. Rex, back to you. Thank you.
Sunday, June 22nd, and our 7 sports team returns to Sydney's Amaroo Park Raceway for round 4 of the Better Breaks AMSCAR Touring Car Series. The Amaroo layout is just under 2 kilometres in length and arguably the most demanding blacktop strip in the nation. Today's round of the Better Breaks Series brings out the big guns for Nissan and Volvo. Colin Bond currently tops the point standings for Alpha, just 2 clear of Tony Longhurst, then 6 points back to Jim Richards, with Gary Rogers, John Bow and Gary Wilmington rounding out the top half dozen. Today's bill of fare features the regular Amaroo action attractions, and as a bonus we also pick up the Appendix J Golden Oldies for the Finnair Challenge Cup. Another motor racing sports special is ready to roll, so buckle up as Goodyear presents our full-bore roar from the Annan Grove Amphitheatre.
Hello and welcome to another exclusive 7 Network telecast from Amaroo Park, where the cars are on the track for Heat 1, Round 4 of the Better Breaks AMSCAR Series. But also on the program today we've got sports sedans and Formula Fords, lasers that'll amaze you and Vs that are guaranteed to please, plus production cars and the golden oldies of Appendix J. But right now they're gridding up for the first 5-lap screamer in the Better Breaks Series, and on pole position we've got the Volvo dealer team's John Bow sharing the front row of the grid with him, Nissan's Glenn Seaton, followed by the BMW duo Jim Richards and Tony Longhurst, next to Mike Bergman in the Commodore and Colin Bond's Ignis Alpha, then the Chicken Man, Graham Bailey and Brian Callahan in another pair of Commodores. 10 seconds to blast off in Heat 1. Here's Mike Raymond.
Roger Wilco, and we're set to go with Heat 1 of the Better Breaks. 5 laps the distance. John Bow on pole, Glenn Seaton starting alongside, and it's Bow getting away smartly. Seaton goes up with him though as they head up to the right-hand kick for the first time, but trouble's already for Seaton as he drops off the pace. That gives a Bow a wide-open racetrack clear of Jimmy Richards, and Tony Longhurst making a determined bid here for third and gets it. Mike Bergman is the next one through, and Colin Bond also getting through here on the outside as they swing through the loop area and down the back straight towards Mazda Corner for the first time.
And Glenn Seaton, Mike, has pulled off the track just over the top of Vitchepave Hill. I don't know what the problem is, and Bow's being overtaken there as they come round through the loop. And Jimmy Richards hits the front. Bow's got trouble as well. Hand out of the car and they're streaming past him.
Dunlop Loop was the first area of problem for Johnny Bow. Now, on the back part of the course, Jimmy Richards leads a JPS BMW 1-2 at this stage down to the lake for the first time. Richards, car number 1. Tony Longhurst, then Mike Bergman, the third car through.
Coming up onto the straight in lap number 1, 4 to go. And it is Richards in car 1 from Longhurst, then Bergman, Tony Cavich and Brian Callahan, and series leader Colin Bond a fair way back as we look here at Tony Longhurst. Last weekend at Lakeside, spun the 325 BMW, ripped the sump off the bottom of the car, and you'll recall that Jim Richards went off the track with him. Here's Mike Bergman in the V8 Commodore, car number 33. And the 2 turbos down with problems.
By gee, the cars are coming around the track very fast, and John Bow is stalled just out of the lake corner. This is going to be very interesting. Seaton's gone past him, headed for the pits, but Bow is still there, blocking a fair section of the track. And here comes the field, streaming down towards that corner.
Bond in car 75, right behind Tony Cavich now. He's in 5th position. And they're coming up. There's John Bow on the left-hand side of screen. They did an engine change in that car overnight, having blown a head gasket yesterday.
They come out of Wonderlick Corner across the strike, and it's Jimmy Richards, Tony Longhurst, then probably 3 car lengths back to the first of the Commodores, driven by Mike Bergman over the top of Skyline and dropping down into Dunlop Loop yet again.
Richards is using a new D4 compound Pirelli tyre for the first time this weekend on a 17-inch rim. They've only used it in practice prior to today. And at the moment, Bergman's still in 3rd, but the battle on for 4th and 5th. And now Colin Bond has gone through on Tony Cabbage and split the 2 Commodores, and now up into 4th.
Keeping in mind that Tony Longhurst only 2 points in arrears to Colin Bond in the Better Break Series. Heading down to the late corner, Jimmy Richards, race leader in car number 1.
This is also going to help Richards' point score. He's 3rd in the series with 133 points, and he'll pick up quite a swag full of points for this victory if he can nail it. Remember last year, 12 starts, 12 wins, a clean sheet for Jim Richards, the reigning Australian Touring Car Champion.
He goes over the top. We'll see the gap now. Back to 2nd, Tony Longhurst. Then a tremendous scrap going on between Mike Bergman and Colin Bond as they head into the loop area. With about 1.5 laps remaining in this race. Here's Jimmy Richards, number 1, been feeling the pinch this season against the Turbo boys in Nissan and Volvo. But today, the way the cards are falling into place, Jimmy is looking the goods. The car number 1.
The car's sitting on the road better than ever before. And the way things are winding up at the moment, he's looking very good for the Endurance Series, and Longhurst still in comfortable 2nd place here, but back in 3rd place. It's all happening. You'll see as they come through the right-hander at the stop corner. Wait for the bunch here for 3rd. It's Bergman. Tony Cabbage getting right in behind Bond. Brian Callahan in there as well. And Graham Bailey with now 1 lap to go. And Bondy all over the back, and Cabbage is off in the grass. Out to the middle of the circuit, almost in the pond. Wilco, that's almost your territory.
A little bit of slipping and sliding there from Tony Cabbage. Here's our race leader, though. He's on his final lap. Jimmy Richards, exit Dunlop Loop, heads down now towards Master Corner. Still Tony Longhurst running a very solid 2nd. Down to the left-hander at Honda. And there's the gap from Jimmy Richards to teammate Tony Longhurst.
Longhurst using an Amaroo for the first time, a new set of bigger diameter front brakes on the 325, and he's only around about a 2nd behind. And look at this scrap here, because Bond is rounding up Bergman on the outside. The Commodore with more horsepower. Graham Bailey coming in on the act as well. Side by side through the right-hander. The checkered flag out for Jim Richards, and he'll take victory in Heat 1 of the AMSCAR Better Breaks Touring Car Series. Longhurst in 2nd. The battle for 3rd, sensational. Bergman hangs on. Bond, Callahan and Bailey. What a race.
Colin Bond was climbing all over the back of Bergman right through the race. Tony Cabbage got caught up in it at one stage there, but they couldn't catch this lot. Jimmy Richards is the winner. Tony Longhurst 2nd and Bergman 3rd in Heat 1 of the Better Breaks AMSCAR Series.
Cars on the grid as we welcome you back to Amaroo Park for Heat 2, Round 4 of the Stallion Stable 2WS Group E Production Series. The flag is raised. Mark Gibbs has pole position. Brad Jones on the outside. Jones, a stunning start. Roland Hill up into 3rd place. Then Brian Potts.
They're really going to it.
Peter Fitzgerald came up as well. In fact, a couple of the cars haven't got away too cleanly.
Roland Hill has made a blinding start over the top. It's going to be Gibbs in front, but you'll find that Hill has slotted into 2nd place. Yes, he has.
Brad Jones went backwards with a great, I think it's flurry of drama. Yeah, maybe Mr. Gear as he went up to the top of the hill.
And Brad Jones back in 5th spot.
Here they come down the back part of the course through Master Corner down to the left-hander at Honda.
So it's Mark Gibbs in car number 50, the Cabramatta Spares entry. Then Roland Hill, then Potts. Further behind them in car 56 is Brett Youlden. Brad Jones now clear of Ron Ison, and Peter Fitzgerald a fairly ordinary start as well. And look at this action here with Gibbs on the inside in car 50. Hill fighting for a way around the outside. There's the nose of the Starion coming through. So it's Commodores in the top 4 spots at the moment. And Gibbs almost kissing the fence as he comes through to end lap number 1 and 7 to go.
Well, of course, of the 22 starters, 8 Commodores, 6 Starions in the field, heading up to the top of Bitchapave for the 2nd time. And Commodores with the wood on the opposition at this moment.
Mark Gibbs may be the race leader and series leader, but Roland Hill is the one that looks like he's keen to go faster in this race.
Mark is the series leader after 3 rounds in the production car title here at Amaroo. 81 points. His next rival is Des Gibbs, 78 points. Peter Fitzgerald, 75. Brad Jones has 70.
If you're wondering where Des Gibbs is, he started way back in the field in this race.
Look at this. Brad on the inside, two-wheeling, a bit of motocross. Gets the Starion sideways. Yulden holds line and remains in 4th place. Peter Fitzgerald has also gone off behind these drivers as now Jones goes for a run on the inside at the stop corner. Well,
Jones working the inside run here once again on Yulden. And I tell you what, Yulden is using all of the track and then some. Commodores still running strongly out in front.
In the earlier 5 lapper this morning, Mike Jones got away in about 4th or 5th and worked his way up to 2nd, finally getting through on the Commodores, which tend to get a little hard on their brakes towards the end of the race, and they also work their tyres over pretty fiercely, and so is Brad Jones there. He locked a brake, missed the apex of the turn, ran wide, and as you can see, has dropped just a bit more ground now to Kent Yulden, or Brett Yulden, should I say, in car 56.
An interesting series, this, the one presented by Stallion Stables, and of course 1224 2WS. And here once again comes Brad Jones down on the inside. Onto the binders that time, but Yulden got it all out of shape anyway. He's wiggling and waggling down the back part of the course towards the lake, the right-hander now. And Jones is giving him a pretty tough time under brakes in the Perrier Starion.
Brad's given him just a little tap as they've gone down to the stop corner.
You'd almost guarantee that Yulden was running interference for the rest of the Commodore boys. Here he comes up again. You'll find this tightens up as they approach the guardrail. But Brett Yulden is giving Brad Jones a tough time, but Jones will get around. Yes, he does. Drops into 4th now.
He's running wide, though, as he goes through the right-hander at Dunlop.
The only thing is, though, Yulden won't be able to close up coming up because he's out of shape himself.
Well, that's really caused the Perrier driver some problems now because he's given a good 6 or even 7 seconds to Mark Gibbs, the race leader in car 50. You'll see them down in the left-hander at Honda. There they are in the background. Front of the Starion diving under brakes in this very difficult left-hand corner to negotiate. He's got a lot of work ahead of him now, so it's Commodore 1, 2 and 3, Mitsubishi Turbo Starion in 4, then Brett Yulden, and surprisingly the next man is car 77 John Burke in the Toyota Supra, so they've done a lot of work on that car and it's coming up through the field as well.
Yeah, up from 12th spot to 6th, doing a good job, but still a long way off the pace.
Still Mark Gibbs, the race leader from Roland Hill, as they go up Bitcher Pave Hill to the left-hand kick, and now they'll drop into the right-hander at Dunlop Loop. Now Hill is closed up behind Mark Gibbs. Potts, he's been on level pegging with them, but he'll be the first, well, the next driver actually for Brad Jones to come into contact. There's the gap back to 4th as Jones tries to make up that deficit. Laps running out, only an 8 lap of this Stallion Stables 2WS sprint event.
3 and a bit to go. Mark Gibbs, Roland Hill, still that way. Hill pushing as hard as he can, but can't close the gap on the leader. Brian Potts in behind them. Then a gap to the Perrier car, Brad Jones. And he's shaken off Brett Yulden now by a considerable margin. And then behind that pair, we've got Peter Fitzgerald and John Burke involved in the private battle of
the Perrier Starion getting just a little closer to the back of Brian Potts in car number 10. Brad Jones having a regular run in Australian motor racing at the moment in these production cars, and next weekend when 7 Sport takes you to Winton Raceway, he'll be driving Brian Thompson's turbo Mercedes-Benz sports sedan, and also rumours floating around at the moment about an impending Group A drive for young Brad.
2.5 laps to go. He's got time to get onto the back of this leading trio, but I don't really think he's got a chance to get by any of them.
Gibbs had a wheel almost in the dirt that time. Roland Hill sitting probably a couple of car lengths back behind him as they head down to the lake. Jones goes through the infield just to try and gain some ground, but that was allowable. Actually, he made ground. He made ground. He went via the infield, and he's managed to pull himself up on a couple of car lengths back behind our third-placed Commodore. Once again, they go across the line.
6 completed, 2 to go. The thunder of the 5-litre V8s. Commodores have really come to terms with this production car racing. They're now super competitive, and Mark Gibbs, one of last year's great laser drivers, has come to terms with the V8 car, and he was the winner, of course, of the $5,000 provided by Yokohama at the Calder production car race about a month ago. So he's got the points on the board in this series for Stallion Stable and 2WS. He's also picked up some pretty big prize money along the way. Jones again pushing this poor little stallion pretty hard. He's giving it a caning up over the ripple strips now, right in behind Brian Potts. So the race a long way from over. Look at the tyre smoke coming off the inside of the rear of the Commodore as they start to pick up their inside leg and really smoke. And
Jones down under brakes. Here he comes, under 10. See ya, boys. He got 2 and 1 hit there. That drops him up to 3rd behind Roland Hill. And I tell you what, the way he's driving, I wouldn't be surprised if he gets past Hill here in the final lap.
I was trying to untangle my tongue and say that car number 23, Paul Miller, was in the way in the Ford Laser, not intentionally, just got tangled up in the dice, but Brad's made some ground.
Once again, Gibbs from Hill, then Brad Jones, the big mover as he comes down the inside, but you've got to turn here, fella. He does that about the middle of the corner, missed the apex and everything, but he's still there, and right behind him, of course, is the 3rd of the Commodores. The driver there, I don't think, is all that happy anyway. Brian Potts, he got attacked under brakes. Half a lap remains in the Stallion Stables 2WS Group E production car race. There's our race leader, Gibbs going through. Hill in 2nd. Brad Jones has fought his way to 3rd.
And Hill's out in the boonies, drops the wheel over the ripple strip in the Commodore. The Stallion inching closer down to the right-hander. Look at the dive under brakes. This will be brave. And Jones, does he get through? The nose of the Stallion into 2nd place. What a tremendous drive. Brian Potts also having a nibble for 3rd place, and I think he's got through. Roland Hill shocked by it all. Mark Gibbs the winner in car number 50 for Cabramatta Spares. A great performance. Brad Jones 2nd, Brian Potts in 3rd, and Roland Hill will finish in 4th in the NCR entry.
Right now, let's go to the Castrol scoreboard, courtesy of Digital Equipment Corporation, and it tells us that Mark Gibbs is the winner, Brad Jones is 2nd, and Brian Potts 3rd. I heard Mark Gibbs saying things were a bit desperate down there. Action behind you, Mark, was a bit desperate all the way.
There certainly was plenty happening, wasn't there?
Well, gee, you've really got the Commodore up and running. In fact, the Commodores have taken this category, and I'm excluding Brad just for the moment, by the throat this year.
Yeah, they're going well. I think someone might have slipped a whack of cam in there somehow. It's really flying, that car.
As I said, the action was pretty frantic behind you, but you seem to have, well, a trouble-free run in front. You weren't really under any threat once you got off the grid.
The car was going all right. Our tyres were going off and the brakes again. But apart from that, the car's going well.
Presentation from Robert Goldman from 2WS. Congratulations on another fine win to Mark Gibbs.
Congratulations, Mark, from Stallion Stable and 2WS.
Thank you very much.
Great race.
I'd like to thank 2WS and Stallion Stables, also my sponsors, Sutton's at Chilora, Waggett Cams and Black Flash brake pads.
Got them all in there. Thank you, Mark. Come in here, Bradley. Just a quick word. Talk about charging hard, mate. You were out of your tree there.
It was very difficult, yeah. I got 5th instead of 3rd up the hill and thought it was all over, but it worked out, well, reasonably well.
Worked out reasonably well.
One short, yeah.
You've got a big job ahead of you, though, because in the series now, Mark has a very, very comfortable lead.
Yes, I'm not sure that we'll catch him too much in the series, but hopefully we'll knock him off for the next round.
OK, see you then.
Thanks very much.
Righto, Mark Gibbs, a worthy winner in today's round of the Stallion Stables 2WS production car race here at Amaroo Park. Right now, here's Mike Raymond.
During our recent telecast from the Lakeside circuit, we pointed out some difficulties ahead in the restructuring of the Australian Touring Car Championship program for 1987. As you're well aware, 10 rounds constitute the national championship for 85 and for 86. But the series will be slashed to 6, and therefore there are some problems. The cutback in Touring Car Championship rounds from 10 to 6 is a controversial one, but obviously tailored to give Australian drivers an opportunity to contest the planned World Group A title in 87. CAMS is pumped for a national title which fits the bill both cosmetically and geographically, but a number of circuits have missed out in the calendar slash. This is how the streamlined fixture list will look. The 6 rounds will be divided between Lakeside, Queensland, Wanneroo, Western Australia, Adelaide International Raceway, Symonds Plains in Tasmania, Calder Park, Melbourne, and Amaroo Park, Sydney. Missing from the sprint schedule will be Surfers Paradise International Raceway, Sydney's Oran Park, Melbourne's Sandown, and Victoria's Winton Motor Raceway.
Well, the only one to really lose out's Winton, I guess, Mike. Every other circuit has got something out of the package.
Would it be fair to say it was a decision made on behalf of motorsport, not necessarily the best commercial decision?
Well, yes, that's right. It's not probably the best commercial decision. Motorsport had to be taken into account. There's been a lot of problems with competitors of late, crying expensive television. It's an expensive operation going from the state to state 2 or 3 times the way it was. So a decision had to be made on what to do to sort it all out.
I think Amaroo Park can benefit motorsport in a lot of aspects. We've proven that in the last 2 years, and we feel we can go a long way by doing that for the spectator and for the competitor.
6 races, of course, constitutes a very, very quick Australian Touring Car Championship. But for the courses that miss out, there are 3 endurance races, each of 500 kilometres. They'll be staged at Surfers Paradise, at Amaroo Park in Sydney, and of course the Sandown Castrol 500. And winding up the season, the James Hardy 1000. However, the reduction in touring car sprint races does mean one thing: a little less exposure in the media, television, newspapers and radio, and perhaps a reduction in some of the team budgets.
Yes, I think you've got to appreciate the fact that everyone's looking to try and get their pound of flesh out of it, you know, and the sponsor wants the most publicity he can get. If it's being reduced by a couple of races, that's sure it's going to be something he's going to be reduced in.
I think it's a matter of getting back to the old days where a promoter's got to get off his butt and start promoting a race meeting and get people and competitors to come to a race meeting and okay, do deals or whatever to get people to come to sort of races to support the local races. And I think that's more or less what's going to happen to give our sponsors coverage for what they're getting now.
Exposure is very important, and whilst you could still have club racing, I really think, and don't get me wrong, I mean, club racing is great fun and a lot of people enjoy it, but the crowd want to see professionalism, and without the television, you will not get it.
Tasmanian Wanneroo, we're a long way from Gosford. It cost a fair bit of money to go there, but I'm very pleased about the concept of the 6 rounds, because I believe a privateer can put a lot more effort into 6 rounds than 10 and save a few dollars then to go to Bathurst or wherever else he wants to go to.
10, you know, was probably a little bit too much. I feel 6 is probably not quite enough. You know, 8 was a better number. Like, just looking at the circuits, I would have thought you'd have 1 race at each of our major circuits, and I think there's 8 of those, you know, and that allows you going to Perth and also to Tasmania.
A touring car round would take a week out of my life, a week out of my working life. I can afford that. But when you stack week upon week to travel across the country a couple of times, that's simply not on for someone like me. The current program looks suitable to me.
The big problem facing a number of circuits is no touring cars, no crowds, a distinct lack of spectators, and therefore a limited future in this cold and realistic commercial world. Australian touring car racing has blossomed over a period of 2 decades. Beechey, Gagan, Jane and Moffat were household names long before the Europeans caught on to our successful spectator formula. For the sake of Australian motorsport, let's hope it stays that way. Flag raised now for the start of the Coca-Cola Formula Ford race at Amaroo Park. A full grid, they're racing. Warwick Brooklyn has pole position for the race, but it's Richard Carter who comes up very quickly on the outside, and the yellow machine tucking right in behind them is Jeff Walters in car number 2 as they race up Bitchapay for the first time.
Great start from Warwick Brooklyn, and also an excellent start from Richard Carter. Jeff Walters to 3rd, Gary Jones the next man through in car 77, and Walters getting on the inside on the grass as he went through the right-hander at the Dunlop Loop. Carter was the winner of the preliminary race here earlier today. Warwick Brooklyn, who has had pole position, in fact, dropped a valve in the first event. He missed a gear and the engine overrevved, in fact bent a valve, and they've replaced the head. So the car now in much better shape for this second heat, and he's up into 2nd place behind Carter. Full field goes through the left-hander at Honda. They're down to the right-hand late corner. The order is Richard Carter. Then we've got Warwick Brooklyn, Jeff Walters, Gary Jones.
And you'll notice Gary Jones going through there carrying one of our 7 race cams on the side of the vehicle. And this is what it looks like in a Formula Ford as you race up Bitchapay Hill. Driver's hands.
It's a new angle, a tremendous shot as we look over the driver's left-hand shoulder. And he gets sideways as he comes across the top of the hill. He's punting hard, Gary Jones.
He swings through Dunlop Loop and now works down to the back part of the course. And he's trailing, of course, Jeff Walters, who's made it up into 3rd, driving the Logan Holmes entry, the green car.
Here how quickly he goes through the right-hander at Mazda, then it's down a gear for the left-hander at Honda. The
cars really fly through that back part of the course. He drops a wheel over the ripple strips, and he is still in 4th position, right behind Jeff Walters. In fact, Walters now dropping back into Jones's clutches, and Brooklyn getting a little closer to the back of Richard Carter in the older Maytag. Second and third cars are Elwyn cars, built by Elwyn Bickley in New South Wales. Australian design and built car.
To the top of Bitchapave Hill, Richard Carter.
That Maytag is not just an older car. I think it's about 12 years old, isn't it?
Yes, it is. And Richard was a former winner of the Formula 4 Driver to Europe Series back in 1976. He had a break from the sport and has come back recently. Did very well last year. The reigning champion in the Coke Series here at Amaroo Park, and he leads the series at the moment with 13 points. And there's car 41 in trouble, and that is Alan Fish, and car 22 Andrew Gubb in the Bob Jane T-Mart's entry. A wheel ripped off the car that's still parked up on the ripple strips. That looks pretty unhealthy. So here's Brooklyn, Triple M entry, right in behind Richard Carter. Brooklyn is equal second in this championship with 9 points. Carter leads with 13. And Brooklyn is also the leader of the Formula 4 Driver to Europe Series at present, which we're covering on 7 Sport, and we'll be there next weekend for the next round at Winton. Now Brooklyn pulls out from behind the slipstream, but the hand comes up to acknowledge the yellow flag, and it's a pretty disastrous looking scene. Jeff Walters makes some ground under the yellow. He can do that, but he cannot pass.
That puts him on even terms, though, as they come out of Dunlop Loop and down towards Mazda Corner. Richard Carter covering his tracks very, very nicely indeed, and giving Warwick Brooklyn a pretty tough time. Jeff Walters has closed appreciably on them. This is where the action is.
This car of Warwick Brooklyn's is prepared by Michael Quinn, a former Formula 4 driver and well known, of course, for some of his Bathurst drives in the 2-litre type cars. Expert preparation. And Brooklyn going much better in this heat now with the new cylinder head on the car and their valve problem sorted out. And so we've got a good 3-way dice on as they cross the start-finish line area. Carter, followed by Brooklyn, Jeff Walters. They'll come up again and probably receive a yellow flag. Yes, the hands go in the air. Watch how they all bunch up, though. They're pretty cagey, these fellas. It's a waved yellow, indicating that there is quite a degree of seriousness with the problem. And behind, we've got Gary Jones carrying Seven's race cam.
Yes, he's still in touch with the leaders. As they come down the back straight, Brooklyn up on the inside. Carter says no thank you, closes the door quite effectively. Down the hill to the next left-hander at Honda Corner. And Walters giving Warwick Brooklyn some hurry up as they come out of that turn. And now down towards the right-hander at the Lake Corner.
Walters is equal second with Brooklyn in the championship here in the Coca-Cola Series, so he needs these points. 9 for a win, 6 for second, 4 for third. Jones getting closer to the back of these drivers. Look at Walters. Just to skate through on the inside.
Now Carter makes his move. Hangs in there. Just doesn't allow Brooklyn any room up on the outside. They go over the top. Whether or not the flags will still be out.
The race has gone half distance. 5 down, 5 to go.
41 cars still sitting there as they come off the loop. Carter in the Maytag leading from Warwick Brooklyn in the Triple M entry. We're going back, of course, to Gary Jones in the Westfield Shopping Town entry. And there he is sitting just back behind the leaders and very, very busy indeed behind the wheel.
From back through the gears into the left-hander at Honda. You can see his right hand working on the gear shift lever, a little different to the road cars we drive.
He's picked right up on the leading trio. They did drop him off for a while, but Jones closes right up under brakes as they go through the Lake Corner. He's not all that far adrift now.
Well, that then gives rise to the fact that Carter is, in fact, holding up Brooklyn.
Well, you've also got now a stationary yellow flag out at the top of the hill now that all of the drivers are aware of the situation. Look at Brooklyn here. Does he get through? I think he's made this one a good move.
What about Walters?
Walters wants to go with him. 3 wide across the top at Nissan. Coming up on Alan Fisher's car, and a new leader, Warwick Brooklyn. Oh, Walters, how close can you go?
I think he touched it as he went through there. I'm sure he did.
Well, that wasn't that bright, was it? The car's been there for the last 3 laps.
Well, he's still there. He's still on the track. He's in second place. Gee, still just living dangerously.
Coming down to the left-hander at Honda Corner. Warwick Brooklyn now takes charge from Jeff Walters. Richard Carter goes back into third after leading to half distance. And, of course, our man carrying race cam is Gary Jones in the Westfield Shopping Town entry. Still busy, but he's closed up right here behind Richard Carter. How close do they go to the wall?
If Carter was holding the other pair up, then it's a fair bet to say Jones could reel him in here, I think.
There's the split from first to fifth as they head up Bitchapave Hill again. Warwick Brooklyn in the Triple M entry. Walters, Carter, and of course Jones.
Brooklyn's getting away. The battle is on now for second, third, fourth. There's Brooklyn going out of shot. Walters, Carter, Jones.
Missing a couple of drivers this weekend as we go back to race cam. David Brabham and David Stanley having a weekend off, preferring to save their talents for next weekend at Winton. Great shots from the race cam as Jones goes up over the ripple strip. Changes down for the right-hander at the late corner, and you can see he's now getting very close to the back of Richard Carter's car, looking right underneath the gearbox. Carter's a wake up. He's got a sign hanging there. He'll make some ground out of the fact that Jones is carrying race cam.
Once again, Carter up on the outside this time of Walters, but he won't have the run for the next turn. 41 still sits there. One of the cars being lapped, caught up in this frantic dash as they move now onto the back straight down towards Mazda corner. And you're right, Gary, Brooklyn is running away from Jeff Walters and Richard Carter.
Well, Carter desperately needs to forestall Gary Jones here and hold at the third position as far as the points are concerned to try and protect his position in the series.
I must pay a tribute to our race cam engineers here today. The system we're using on Gary Jones' car isn't our Indianapolis 500 camera setup. It's one of our larger units that in fact Tony Longhurst will be carrying a little later on in the touring car. And the boys have been very busy just taking it off the mount, putting on one car, pulling it out and putting it on another. They've done a great job.
Less than a lap to go. Walters in second place with Carter in pursuit. Brooklyn well clear of them now. Looks to have race victory parcelled up. There he is.
Once again to Honda corner, Warwick Brooklyn, car number 76.
Allowing for the top three to stay as they are at the moment. The point situation will be very interesting. Carter has a big dive under brakes. Oh, and goes through, launches the car. And
Jones
Jeffrey Walters will drop back into third. Jones has gone through. You're right, the checkered flag out for Warwick Brooklyn. Brooklyn the winner. Second place will go to car 77, or will it? Oh, and Walters through on the inside, but couldn't quite make it in third in car number 2, the Logan Holmes entry. And Carter was a very lucky man not to launch himself straight over the fence down at the right-hand stop corner.
Well, so much for the Coke Formula Ford Series here at Amaroo. The winner, Warwick Brooklyn. Second spot goes to Race Cam Jones, and third to Jeff Walters.
By gee, things do change rapidly in Formula Ford racing, Warwick Brooklyn, don't they? Yeah. 1 minute you were running third, next minute you were up running second. Jeff Walters was tucked in behind you running, so that must have been a bit of a bother, the car hanging off the side of the track up here.
Yeah, it's caused a bit of concern. It's when you come over the top of the hill, we weren't quite into yellows yet, and the car gets a bit skatey over the top as we get a bit airborne, and so we had to sort of control it and slow it all down before we got there, really.
Mid-race, what happened to Richard Carter? He seemed to be leading quite comfortably. Next minute, Jeff and yourself both had him.
Well, actually, Richard got the jump on me at the start, and after a lap I was hounding him. I was like right on his tail. I hit his wheel once, just with the nose cone. There was no real trouble there. But Jeffrey never got past me. But then I squeezed Richard out going over the top of the hill, and that was the last I saw of him, really.
Well, Richard's been squeezed out in a few spots because with the point situation the way it is, you probably didn't see it because it happened behind you, but he made a desperate dive under Jeff under brakes over here at the lake corner, and very nearly got himself launched right into the wall.
Yeah, I saw him on the warm-down lap. I saw him into the wall, and so that puts me in the lead in the series, so I mean, bad luck for him to win our way.
Well, you're in the lead in both the series, the National Formula Ford Driver to Europe Series and the Coke Series here at Amaroo Park.
Yeah, so it's been a great year, and I'd just like to thank my crew from Formula Ford Race Hire and Preparation, Mike Quinn, Greg Kentwell, and Jim and Murray, the guys who prepare the car, and my sponsors, Triple M FM in Sydney, who make it all possible for me to come and race and hopefully win both series.
And Mike Waller is here from Coca-Cola to make the presentation.
And I also like to thank Coke too for supporting the series for so long. It's been good.
Terrific effort on the part of Warwick Brooklyn. Mike?
Tremendous. Congratulations, Warwick.
Thank you.
On winning round 3 of the Coca-Cola Formula Ford Series. An excellent performance today, mate.
Thanks very much.
Fantastic. Great effort by Warwick Brooklyn, now the leader, as we said, in both the National Series and the Coca-Cola Series here at Amaroo Park. Right now, here's Neil Crompton.
On the touring car scene this year, there's a couple of new faces on the scene, and they both have something in common. They both drive very quick turbo cars, and for the moment, they're both number 2 drivers. I speak of John Bowe and Glenn Seaton. And John, this year in touring cars, as distinct from racing cars, an all-new deal and pretty exciting.
Yeah, I'm finding it very interesting because I've never driven a touring car before, and it's good to have the opportunity to drive in a competitive car like the Volvo. I'm learning still, and the team are learning to know my idiosyncrasy, so we're having a good time.
One of the interesting things for you is this continual reversal of which side of the car you drive from. You're either in the right-hand drive Volvo or the left-hand drive. How's that going?
Well, it took me a while to get used to left-hand drive. Not so much the changing gears with the right hand, but just the placement of the car. So now I've got used to that. I'm back in the right-hand drive car this weekend, purely as a test exercise, really. So I don't know, if you see me hit something, you'll know I'm not real good at it.
I think your best performance so far, John, was back in Calder, where it looked as though you were going to win the race until you got from a couple of laps towards the end. The car starved of fuel. That was very disappointing.
Yes, it was, but, you know, the race was run at such a hectic pace that the car used a lot more fuel than we thought. So, although it was disappointing, at least I've perhaps shown that I can run up the front, so it's good for the future.
As a man with, I guess, a purist racing background, can we see a future for you in touring cars for some time to come?
Well, I think so. I'm really an open-wheeler driver. I love open-wheelers, but in Australia, to be a professional driver, Group A touring car racing is the thing to be in, and, you know, as I said before, I'm very happy to be in the Volvo team.
One of your opponents this weekend, certainly one of the better ones, is young Glenn Seaton, who's having his first full competitive season this year in the Nissan Group A Skyline. And Glenn, you've done very well indeed.
No, it's not as much pressure as if you're a number 1 driver, where you always got to show yourself. But as a number 2 driver, you're really there just to back up the number 1 driver, and it's been great so far.
Well, today you have the opportunity of being the number 1 driver temporarily. George is away and having a break until next weekend at Winton. Is there a chance that we might see a win from Glenn Seaton?
Well, we hope so this weekend. Really, we're here this weekend just for a development program for the long-distance race at Amaroo. And so far, it's looking good.
Do the senior drivers give you a hard time? You had a few problems back at Surfers Paradise when you went into the fence. And, of course, at Calder, it looked as though you, like John at one stage, were going to win the race.
No, not really. It's actually good experience driving with good top-line drivers, because it's really, most of the time there's no biffing or bashing. It's only sometimes accidental, and you just can't help that sort of thing.
Well, I look forward to seeing you both in just a few moments, and we'll be back at Amaroo Park after this break to see more touring car action.
And welcome back to Sydney's Amaroo Park Raceway on an absolutely perfect day. The track just being cleared up after the couple of incidents that resulted in a couple of Formula Fords going around sideways in Dunlop Loop. It's one of the vehicles heading back, number 44, heading back to the pit area on the Wrecker's Hook. It's only one of about 4 cars going back that way. And that, of course, is John Collins. At the moment, there's Tony Longhurst in car number 25. Tony trails Colin Bond by 2 points in the Better Brakes AMSCAR Touring Car Series. Let's have a look how they'll line up for this afternoon's 10-lapper. Pole position, of course, is John Bowe in number 10. From position number 2 is car 15, Glenn Seaton. From 3, car number 1, national champ Jim Richards. From 4.25, teammate Tony Longhurst. From 5.33, the Commodore of Mike Bergman. From 6.75, Colin Bond in the Alpha. From 7, car 2, Graham Bailey, the Commodore. From 8.47, Brian Callahan and another Commodore. From 9.34, Gary Rogers in the Bob Jane BMW. From 10.28, Tony Cabbage in a Commodore. From 11.77, Peter Williamson. And rounding out the dozen, car number 12.29, Ken Davidson. And just a few to start in back of Davidson, Bobby Holden, the super vet that we have to be talking to a little later on this afternoon. In the Toyota Sprinter, David Ratcliffe in the Toyota Levin. Andrew Bagnall from New Zealand in the Ford Escort, and car number 61, Kevin Clark in the Mustang. And the cars come out onto the racetrack.
Well, the first heat this afternoon turned out to be a non-event for the 2 men off the front row of the grid, John Bowe and Glenn Seaton. Seaton we saw come to a halt halfway up Bitchapave Hill the first time, jammed in first gear apparently, Mike, and then John Bowe failed to complete 1 lap because he broke a throttle cable. Those two will want a lot better luck if they're to make an impact in the remaining 2 heats, this and the 15-lapper to come up later for the Better Brakes Series today.
You couldn't believe how luck runs then. It was bad luck for John Bowe. Could you imagine that happening a week ago at Lakeside when, of course, Robbie Francevic borrowed Bowe's number 4 car. managed to finish fourth then, but of course we go to round 9 of the Australian Touring Car Championship next Sunday at the beautiful and scenic Winton Motor Raceway in downtown Benalla, Victoria, and rounding out the 10-round championship, the Castrol Grand Final at Sydney's Amaroo Park Raceway on Sunday, July 13th. 2 crackerjack shows, and heading down the road to a George Fury Robbie Francevic head-to-head for the 1986 title.
Glenn Seaton comes up to the line in car number 15. John Bowe will be driving Volvo car 10. Seaton, the 21-year-old from Victoria. Back in the seat again this weekend following the fine performance from Gary Scott last weekend in round 8 of the title back at Lakeside. But Bowe is driving Robbie Francevic's newer right-hand drive Volvo this weekend. As I said before when we spoke with him, he's in and out of left and right-hand drive cars all over the place at the moment. That's just unsettling him a little. But he's a hard charger. We saw just how hard at Calder. He sat in with us last weekend, but he's back behind the wheel again this weekend for Amaroo Park for round 4. And this is heat 2 in the Better Brakes AMSCAR Touring Car Series. Tony Longhurst carrying Seven's race cam installation very quickly into that car.
Yes, they've done a marvellous job just between races, changing the camera over into Tony Longhurst's car. We're about 15 seconds away from the start. Heat number 2 of the Better Brakes AMSCAR Touring Car Series for 86 at Sydney's Amaroo Park. 10 laps in the distance. Flag ready to go up. Racing and getting away very quickly indeed on the outside this time as Glenn Seaton catches a gear. He jumps John Bowe well and truly. Then of course the JPS BMW duo of Jimmy Richards and Tony Longhurst. Mike Bergman coming out of the draft. So too was Brian Callahan as they come over the top of Benchapave Hill and drop into Dunlop Loop with young Glenn Seaton in front.
Colin Bond had to do a fair bit of jostling to get up to his spot. That wasn't too bad. Bond yesterday had problems with the engine. In fact, they broke a conrod in the V6 2.5-litre Alpha. Worked last night, replaced the engine, and as series leader wants to get back up towards the head of this field and get some more points. 2 black JPS BMWs battling it out for 3rd and 4th, and the 2 turbos leading Glenn Seaton and John Bowe. There's the gap first to second, a slightly bigger gap back to Jimmy Richards, and surprise, surprise, they've both completed a lap. So after having gearbox problems in the Skyline, the newer of the 2 Skylines that Fred Gibson and the Nissan team have built this year, they're back in business, and car number 10, the unlucky newer of the 2 Volvos, which always seems to have some drama, has got its throttle cable rewired nicely again, and they're off and running.
Bowe very close to Glenn Seaton as they drop into Dunlop Loop. And Jimmy Richards, Longhurst, and of course Colin Bond round out the 5. Brian Callahan, after a very, very good start, makes it up into the top 6, clear of Mike Bergman. John Bowe is testing the water here with Glenn Seaton for a moment. Keep plenty of pressure on him. Stole pole position yesterday with a 52.73 to Seaton's 53.32. But the big problem now for John Bowe is finding a spot to pass. He's
only done 1 of the 4 rounds, including today, and he's already up into 5th place in the championship here with 82 points, trailing Gary Rogers 96, and then Bond, Longhurst, Richards, the top 3 in the series. As we go to race cam, looking at the back of Jim Richards' car, the 635 BMW. Tony Longhurst working hard. And look at Bowe all over the back now of Glenn Seaton.
It's unlikely he'll get a fair shot at Seaton until the next time up Benchapave Hill. There's the BMW duo, Jimmy Richards, 1, running in 3rd, Tony Longhurst, 4th, and of course Colin Bond in the Ignis Alpha, car number 75.
Inside front wheel of the Volvo coming off the ground. It's a familiar sight with these cars that have a very narrow track and fairly narrow tyres, considering the sort of horsepower and pace that the Volvo enjoys.
Oops.
Inside, oh, and look at Bowe getting sideways. Bondy's up there as well. This will be close as they come through the right-hander at 1 link. There goes the front left-hand indicator on the Volvo. So they're playing for keeps.
Well, Seaton seemed to get out of shape just coming out of the turn. Balk for a moment. Bowe seemed to have the run to the corner, and Seaton closed the gate.
Yeah, I saw this car do that yesterday, car 15, the Seaton car. It lifts the inside rear wheel as it comes out of the right-hander at the stop corner, and then they have awful trouble trying to get power to the ground. It does have a lot of brake horsepower.
Richards just getting closer.
Yes, Jim on the scent. He's probably travelled more laps around here. The car certainly has, with development. Frank Gardner and Jimmy Richards. They know the circuit well. They've done extremely well here. Unbeatable last year in the Better Break Series. There's 15, the Peter Jackson Nissan Skyline. A little gingerly through the exit of that corner. Bowes sitting in right behind, and of course Bowes' mirrors are full of one black BMW.
So Seaton, Bauer, first and second, then Richards, Longhurst, Bond, and behind that a brace of 4 Commodores, including Mike Bergman, Brian Callahan, Tony Cabbage, and the Chicken Man Graham Bailey.
They're about a second and a half, almost 2 seconds off their pace from yesterday's qualifying.
There's Tony Longhurst. He's earned a reputation of being somewhat of a giant killer around Amaroo Park. Probably expect to see that come into play in the 20-lapper a little later on this afternoon, the final of round 4.
Colin Bond, car 75, up into 5th position, series leader by 2 points from Tony Longhurst, just back from a trip to Italy and Belgium to have a look at the new Alpha 75 that the Ignis team will be running later this year, and pick up the homologation papers to bring back to Australia and ratify that car to run here in the not-too-distant future. So that's big and exciting news for the Alpha team. John Bowe seems to be losing ground just a little at the moment, Wilco.
Yeah, after that touch that they had a couple of laps ago, he seems to have backed off just a fraction.
They work the back part of the course down towards Mazda Corner. What a great year Freddie Gibson and the Nissan team are having. They had problems in the opening round here after scorching pole position away from the Volvos and then dropping out of the running. And of course a couple of other problems that saw them not finish at Adelaide, and that perhaps has really cost them the Touring Car Championship for 1986. There's Jimmy Richards, car number 1, staying in touch with the 2 turbo tearaways as they head up the hill again with Tony Longhurst just dropping off the pace a little behind Jim Richards.
Second and third represent the Australian driving champion in Australian Formula 1, or Mondial as we know it. That's John Bowe, and Jim Richards, the reigning national touring car champion. Longhurst still in 4th. Interesting, useless information, and I come up with a bit of it from time to time, Wilco. So with Volvo, the 4-cylinder turbo Volvo, we're talking about the starvation problems they have with fuel at the Calder round. At full throttle, per cylinder, chews up 650 mils of fuel. If you work that out, we're talking just under 2 litres per minute of fuel when the thing's flat out. She certainly hosed through the juice.
What language is he talking?
They use a lot of gas, fella. There's Glenn Seaton, number 15, through Wonderlic Corner, back onto the start finishing straight. And John Bowe, about a car length back behind him. 2 back then to Jim Richards, 5 to Longhurst, then 2 to Colin Bond, and they have well and truly hosed off the Commodore opposition. Brian Callahan still clear of Mike Bergman and the Chicken Man Graham Bailey. And there's the Commodore gang, still chasing the tearaways.
And the tearaways have got 2.5 laps to go, so they're pretty well torn, I'd say.
To Mazda Corner. And Glenn Seaton in charge, and now has a buffer over Johnny Bowe in the number 4 Valvoline Volvo, or the number 10 I should say.
This will be the first outright race win for Seaton, won't it, in this car?
Yes, it will be. It will be. So this is quite a big deal in his racing career at the moment as he comes out of Camalco Corner for a run down the straight.
2 laps to go.
There's the gap back to Jim Richards.
Richards, according to my theory, by virtue of his good run in the first heat, would be looking good points-wise for today's round, as distinct from the overall point score, bearing in mind these 2 cars didn't finish heat 1. And that'll be the first time that Jim's been up in a top point scoring position for a little while as well. So fortunes in motor racing swinging left, right and centre at the moment. And this car will be very strong next weekend for round 9 with the National Touring Car title chase at Winton, a tight and twisting circuit. And it won't particularly suit those cars, I don't think, with enormous amounts of horsepower, and particularly those who don't have a lot of rubber on the road, like the Volvo.
Back behind the leading quartet, Tony Longhurst is in danger of falling into the clutches of Colin Bond, although I think time is going to run out, laps are going to run out with 1 to go.
The Volvo chasing the Nissan at the moment, produces around about 340 brake horsepower. The Nissan about 320. And when you look at it on a power to weight comparison, the Volvo weighs in at about 1,080 kgs, whereas the Nissan about 1,035.
Well, Glenn Seaton is going to get correct weight after this race.
Yeah. So they end up being a very equal and interesting type of equation when you work it all out. And Seaton at the moment has put together one of his best drives all season.
He's coming down to the lake corner for the final time. Number 15, the Peter Jackson Nissan Skyline. 21-year-old Glenn Seaton at the wheel comes out of the turn, running strongly up towards Wonderlick Corner, the final time. And the checkered flag ready to unfold as Glenn Seaton chalks up his first win for the Peter Jackson Nissan team. He leads Valvoline Volvo driver John Bowe across the strike, and the JPS BMW 635 of Jimmy Richards, then Tony Longhurst and Colin Bond. Well, big moment for Glenn Seaton. Let's recap the positions on the Castrol scoreboard. Glenn Seaton, the race winner. John Bowe takes second, and Jimmy Richards takes third.
Coming up on one of the closest series contested here at Amaroo Park in many a long year, the Goodyear Car Owners Club Laser Series, round 6. And Mark Scaife and Peter Dane are dead level at the top of the tree with 111 points each. And they share the front row of the grid for today's race. Quite predictable, I would say, but the outcome of the race is very, very uncertain, because these two have been going at it hammer and tong all season. But the man they've got to look out for is the man who's qualified third fastest here, and that's Shane Press, who's been hard on their hammer all season and just needs half a break to snare the big part of the prize. This is the way they line up. Mark Scaife on the front row with Peter Dane. Second row shared by Shane Press and Steve Williams. Then Andrew Harris and Roger Spencer. Richard Gartner and Ben Ruggles on the next row, followed by Baron Robertson and Ian Poosty, followed by Graham Blanche and Dennis Rogers. They are the top 12 qualifiers, and we've also got Martin Segulan and Keith Deuce to make up the field of 14 for this 6th round of the Goodyear Car Owners Club Laser Series. 8 laps of the Amaroo Park circuit, lots of tyre squealing and lots of toing and froing before the checkered flag drops on this one. Just waiting for the cars to come out onto the track, awaiting clearance from the track marshals, just checking that everything is in order following the running of the previous event. Safety first, always, here at Amaroo Park.
Well, I think we have the makings of a good race, as you mentioned before, with 2 level pegging going into this afternoon's round. It's a very, very lucrative series, the Goodyear Car Owners Club competition that is held here at Amaroo Park Raceway during the course of the winter season. And just running through that prize money, we've got considerably more money than I think it pays for a touring car championship round, so the guys have got all the incentives.
$80,000 total prize pool for the series, $7,000 per round, allocating some $15,000 per meeting. And for a win here today, $1,500. That's not bad. $1,250, I think, the win at the current standings in a touring car round, so it's a little up on that. And for the outright win in the overall series, $3,000, so that's pretty good hay. Goodyear Car Owners Club, Chevy alloy wheels, Valvoline oil and Century batteries are the people that provide us with all of this great laser action. The cars are all very evenly matched and prepared. They basically are built around Group E, or what we call production car regulations. They are, of course, allowed to run Cheviot wheels. They can use any type of brake pad material that they like. They have a roll bar, they have a safety harness and a fire extinguisher. And in the case of this one-off type racing, they're also allowed to make a front suspension modification. They change the front strut in this car, just stiffen it up a little and make it more acceptable for the punishment of motor racing. And that's about it. Other than that, they're standard KA or KB series Ford Lacers.
All they need is a clock radio and a hairdryer, and you can take it to the supermarket.
Don't forget, as the cars go out on their warm-up lap, for our viewers around Australia, particularly those watching this afternoon through BTQ Channel 7 in Brisbane and, of course, ATN Channel 7 in Sydney, we'll be bringing you all the action of round 9 of the Australian Touring Car Championship in 7 days' time from Winton Motor Raceway in Victoria. Robbie Francevic and, of course, George Fury going to head-to-head for the Australian title. And then a fortnight later, on Sunday, July 13th, at Sydney's Oran Park Raceway, the Castrol Grand Final of the touring car title. As I said before, 2 super meetings. be covered by 7 Sport exclusively.
Incidentally, Mike, following that second heat of the Better Breaks Touring Car Series, the overall point score after 3 rounds and today's 2 heats, Tony Longhurst now leads with 187 points. Colin Bond second with 181. Jim Richards up to third, 178. Then Gary Rogers, 115. John Bowe, 108. And Tony Cabbage, 94. That's going to be very interesting when we go to Heat 3 later this afternoon. There's Mark Scaife, youngster from the Central Coast of New South Wales. The winner, in fact, of the preliminary race earlier on today, had a great battle with Peter Dane, who shares the front row in the Goodyear Car Owners Club Series for the Ford Lacers. Shane Press and Steve Williams, the next 2 drivers. So again, we're in for some pretty good action here with a little front-wheel drive Ford Lacers. There's Dane, reigning champion in this class. Won last year by only 5 points from Ken Douglas, and Mark Gibbs was third, the driver that we saw take out the 2WS Production Car Series earlier today, with a little less than 30 seconds remaining prior to the start. Incidentally, Douglas, who finished second, I understand, has a Group A Ford Sierra on the way in Melbourne, so we'll see him in touring car racing in the not-too-distant future.
There's the front row, 8 laps the distance. Round 4 of the Goodyear Car Owners Club Laser Series from Sydney's Amaroo Park. And they're racing 41, beaten by Scaife as they head off up the hill for the first time. Dane being shuffled back here as Williams makes a move towards the front of the field. Look how close they are as they head up Bitchapave Hill for the first time. They take the left-hand kink and now ready to drop into the right-hander at Dunlop Loop.
Roger Spencer in the Q Ford entry, and the yellow car came up pretty quickly as well. Goodness me, that's the car of Andrew Harris, I think. Is that car 17? Yes, the red Laser. He got terribly out of shape across the top. So we have Mark Scaife leading from Peter Dane, Steve Williams. There's Spencer in car 80. Our Queensland friends down this weekend for the series. And the top 3 or 4 are
Where's
going.
this fella going?
Look at this.
He's on the East African Safari. Well, Amaroo, it's about the same.
Dennis Rogers.
Well, they've all managed to get through Honda Corner. Okay, in some sort of shape. Down now to the Lake Corner, where we find Mark Scaife still leading nicely from Peter Dane. Williams being the next one through. Shane Press is pretty close to them. Andrew Harris going through there in number 17 as they complete lap 1 with 7 remaining. Dane getting closer now to Scaife as they head to the top of Bitchapave Hill. Close is not the word for it.
Mark's having a good look in his rear vision mirror at the moment.
He's pushing it.
Couldn't get a feeler gauge between those 2 bumper bars at the moment.
Well, the Tyre Town entry of Mark Scaife leads down towards Mazda Corner. But Dane is very, very close indeed. Puts a wheel up on the curbing, the exit to Mazda Corner.
Inside rear wheel of Mark Scaife's off the ground on that occasion by about 6 or 7 inches. Have a look at that the next time they come around. It was great. Look at Dane punching the brakes as he goes down to the right-hander. Pretty hard to go around the outside.
Behind this pair, Steve Williams is up into 3rd spot. Shane Press now 4th.
A great shot of them coming through Wonderlick Corner.
Spencer, Ruggles, Darren Harris, Gardner, and so the field screams through.
Great shot. Up Bitchapave Hill again. Robertson going through. The rest of the field drops down into Dunlop Loop. Scaife just there in front of Peter Dane in 41, the Goodyear Car Owners Club entry. Williams back in 3rd and 11th. And has Scaife managed to get more than a matchbox away? I think he has, actually. And Williams closing it up behind Peter Dane now. Locking up a brake and skating all over the racetrack was Peter Dane that time.
Cost him ground too. Scaife has got away, just that little bit of an edge as they go down to the Lake Corner, now leading by 3 or 4 car lengths.
After today, there'll be 2 more rounds in this series. Oran Park, Castrol Grand Final Touring Car Round, and then back here for the Endurance Touring Car Race in August. So there's still quite a few points to grab.
Top 4 have broken up the pack here. Scaife leading now from Dane, Williams and Press, and they've dropped off Roger Spencer and the rest by a fair margin.
In this series, you get 30 points for a win, 27 for second, 24 for third. In fact, points go right back to 20th position. So it's important to finish even if you have a tangle and drop back down through the field. You can't allow the other guys to get clear on points.
There's the big gap. You can see fourth back to fifth as the cars came down there through Dunlop Loop.
Mark Scaife, car number 2, the Tyre Town Laser. There's Shane pressing on, and number 5. And Williams separating them. He's in third. Once again, they head down through the lake corner. Haven't actually seen any mad charging for the lead outside of the start. Once again, the cars head through Wonderlick Corner, brings them back onto the long straight here, then up the hill at Bitcher Pave.
Half distance in the race with 4 laps to go.
Dane a little closer this time. Little tap there, perhaps. He's certainly working on Mark Scaife now. They all jump over the curb as they head down into Dunlop Loop.
He's really pushing him hard over the top of the hill there at Bitcher Pave, trying to force him wide as they come off the top of the hill, but Scaife is having none of it so far. He's covered his tracks perfectly.
To this time, Williams hasn't been able to capitalise on some of that corner jumping. Still sitting about 2 lengths back behind Mark Scaife and Peter Dane. Then Shane Preston, number 5. In 4th spot, then a fairly big gap back to the 5th place laser driver, number 80. Oops, a little touch there as Dane attacks the rear bumper of Mark Scaife.
Well, the front pair bring each other undone. Williams will be laughing. He's not only sitting in 3rd spot on the racetrack, he's in 3rd spot in the series, and he'd just love to pick up a bag full of points.
We've got about 3 laps
Cruz
to go by my reckoning.
checking out the situation past the pit entry as the cars head up to the top of Bitcher Pave. Dane gets close on a lap or so. There's Steve Williams, still in 3rd.
He's in the Swan Motors entry. Ominous sound.
It was, wasn't it?
Mark Scaife still just barely in the lead.
Oh,
There's
that was the reason.
Ben Ruggles.
He could.
2.5 laps remaining.
Isn't Dane strong under brakes? He really closes the gap each time. I think, if anything, though, Mark is just a fraction cleaner through the turns, and if anything, his car might be razor edge better in power performance, but it's not much. But Dane has a big run at the outside rear corner.
Gee, he fell for that.
Car. Yeah.
He was trying to set up a little feint move and get him coming out.
Well, he was right on his bumper bar. Now he's back around about 30-40 metres, so that didn't do too much for his chances of winning this race. In fact, Steve Williams is now grinning right in behind Peter Dane. Shane Press still in 4th, car 5. You can't afford to drop out of the chain in this type of racing. Well, the next guy will be right on you. Oh, and look at Dane. He's got the thing really sideways. How do you get a laser to oversteer? It's a front-wheel drive car, but he had the back hanging right out.
That'll light up your vectors.
Look out for Williams.
Yes.
What did they say on the ad? You need some time with grip.
I think they'll all that shortly. They've used all of the racetrack. Not a bad one, kid. Out of the Honda corner, Mark Scaife looking good at this stage. Peter Dane, who was sitting on his bumper a couple of laps ago, now finds Steve Williams very, very close indeed and wanting to carry on.
The last lap board is about to go out for these amazing lasers here at Amaroo Park. There it is. Scaife says, thank goodness for that.
Yes, he looks like he's home scot-free. I don't know about Peter Dane at this stage. Steve Williams closing up over the top and now dropping down into Dunlop Loop.
Steve was actually the winner of the opening round in this series here at Amaroo Park some time ago, as we wait for the cars to appear.
Yes, they'll be back shortly as they work the back part of the course. And here they are.
Scaife, Dane and Williams. Press has been pretty lonely back there in 4th spot since the early stages of the race. The top 3 have had it between them, and nobody's been able to find a way around Mark Scaife.
Coming down to the lake corner for the final time.
Well, Dane's got pretty close once more. He's had to work for the last 3 laps to make up the ground he lost when he was down there trying to go around the outside. comes round now to greet the checkered flag, and Mark Scaife makes it 2 from 2 today. In car number 2, the Tyre Town entry winner. Second placing goes to Peter Dane, and third placing to Steve Williams. Fourth to Shane Press in car number 5.
Well, an interesting Goodyear Car Owners Club Laser Series here from Amaroo Park Raceway. And let's recap the placings for you on the Castrol scoreboard. Mark Scaife is the race winner. Peter Dane takes second spot. Steve Williams picks up third.
Important win there for Mark Scaife. Congratulations, Mark, on taking out today's round of the Goodyear Car Owners Club Laser Series. And I say important because up to today, it was an absolute deadlock between Peter and yourself in the points for this series. This gives you just a little bit of breathing space with, I think, 2 rounds to go.
Yes, Gary, it was very good. Peter's obviously a very hard driver to beat at any stage, and we need a little bit of a points break between us so that we've got a bit of a chance for winning the series, yeah.
I think he was giving you a bit of a hurry up, a little bit of a tap in the boot at 1 or 2 stages, was he? He was pretty anxious.
Oh, well, all's fair. Peter's obviously a very good driver and a very fair driver, so he's very good to race against at any stage.
You've obviously enjoyed this series immensely through this season. Have you given any thoughts at this stage, looking ahead, where you're going to go in motor racing from here?
Obviously, financially, that's the biggest problem as to what you can do for next year, but hopefully we'll either go into a Group E car or a Group A car, depending on what we can come up with funds-wise.
Congratulations on a great victory today, Mark Scaife.
Thank you very much.
All the best, whatever you go into, because you certainly provide plenty of entertainment so far in this series here. All right, that takes us away from the Goodyear Car Owners Club Laser Series round today, and here's Mike Raymond.
Thank you, Gary Wilkinson. During the course of our 7 Sport telecasts in 1986, we've been updating you with the latest information from Europe, and that's for one good reason. Australians have had a very strong presence in the ETC Championship this year. And Ronnie Dixon, who's just back in Sydney, has returned from Austria, where he drove last weekend, and a 3rd or 4th place finish.
Well, at this stage, Mike, I think it's a 4th, yes. But they tell me we could move to 3rd without doing a lap, so I'm very happy about that.
Well, without going into all the politics of it, the Volvos have run 1-2 across the line. They've received the champagne and the plaudits, but the race winner's been taken away from them.
Yes, they've got some infringements, apparently, and they are very strict in Europe. Volvo, at this stage, haven't rejected those infringements, so they've accepted their exclusion. The Ford Sierra Turbo is now 3rd. Was 3rd, is now moved to 1st place, so we all moved down 1 slot.
So what seemed to be the problem with the Volvos that they couldn't produce in scrutineering?
Yes, well, apparently they had a fuel infringement, and they've got a problem with their dashboards. It's made of some sort of plastic material, which they don't like too much.
So what we're suggesting, or what has been mooted, is an oversized fuel tank?
Yes, apparently so. I honestly don't know exactly why, but that's the rumour on the grapevine.
Well, doctors have to travel long distances in Austria.
Yes, that's right, yes.
Well, you're back here now to plan for the Spa 24-hour race. How involved is that? What is the preparation leading up to?
Well, actually, we're really back here for a bit of a rest. I spent about 2 weeks back here with my family. Then I go back to England and help Tom load up to go to Europe. It's a very big project to get 3 cars there to run for 24 hours. It's as big a project as doing the James Hardy race here. I mean, in equipment and personnel, but you need more personnel there because of the time spent of the race.
You've been campaigning one of the 2 South Pacific White Rovers in recent rounds at Misano, of course, in Brno and Czechoslovakia in Austria last weekend. Has there been a buzz to drive the European circuit?
Oh, yeah, it's been a terrific experience. I was only thinking on the way back in the plane with Denny Holm, I've actually done more miles this year in practice and racing than what I've done in the last 4 years of motor racing in Australia. So it's a very good experience.
But you really have been the unlucky man. You're the man that sets up the operation for Bathurst and for Wellington, and through circumstances beyond your control, you don't get to drive.
Yeah, I don't know what that is. I think I have to change my brand of cornflakes or something. I don't know why, but we've had a very good run this year overseas, and last weekend was sort of, okay, I didn't win the race, but to come 4th in a big field, there was 52 cars started in that race, and we were very competitive, and it was a new circuit to us. So with all the things in mind, we're very happy with the result, and so is the team. They're over the moon about it, so it's good.
Well, Australians, of course, will have a lot to cheer about at Spa with Peter Brock, Alan Moffat, Alan Grice, Neil Lowe, John Harvey, yourself. How do you see the Commodore campaign coming on?
Well, I think the Commodores will be very quick there. It's a circuit that suits a horsepower car, but I don't think they should go there
and underestimate the opposition. The Volvos, the BMWs, the Rovers are all very, very fast cars, and I think they should show a lot of respect for those cars, if not learn by their experience earlier this year. But the Commodore should still do very well. I don't think it'll win the race, but I think it'll have a good standing for Australia.
Good to see you back.
Thanks, Mike. Good
Ronnie
to be back.
Dixon, a man in a hurry, and a man who, of course, heads back to Spa in Belgium in just on 2 weeks' time. As I said, he's been a man in a hurry. And so, too, have our cameras and our videotape machines to take in the latest in motorsport over the past 7 days. Let's go to the videotape.
Fine weather prevailed for the Canadian Grand Prix at Montreal last weekend, and it didn't take Pommy pilot Nigel Mansell long to get the upper hand in the Williams Honda. Mansell won the charge to the first corner, with Ayrton Senna quickly taking over the runner-up spot ahead of Alain Prost. Australia's Alan Jones might have been lapped by the leaders, but his Turbo Cosworth Ford was at least to finish and in the top 10. Mansell continued to set the pace with Prost on his tail, but at half distance the Williams went to the pits for fresh rubber. It was a daring move, but one which was to pay off. Nifty Nigel once again claimed the lead from Prost and steered to his 4th Grand Prix career win. Prost took 2nd, Nelson Piquet 3rd, and Keke Rosberg 4th in the 2nd Marlboro McLaren. In the USA, the kart Indy cars made their annual trek to Oregon last Sunday for the Portland 200. They could have actually called it the Mike and Mario Show. Andretti Jr. won the start, but then the real fun and games were to commence. Roberto Guerrero is obviously into wings and things. Watch closely as he connects with the tail of Kevin Kogan's car and wheel stands down the length of the straight at 180 miles an hour. There was trouble too for Indy heartthrob Danny Sullivan, seen here dicing with young Andretti. Their cars touch, and whammy goes Danny. A lap to go and it's all Michael Andretti. His wife calls for divine help to get him home, but alas, his car is running out of gas and he's trying to coast and collect. Coming from the clouds is Papa Mario Andretti. They cross the line in a photo finish. Mike's crew is certain he's won, but Daddy's dash for the cash is spot on. The winning difference, 7/100ths of a second. Closer to home, the touring car boys sizzled at Lakeside last weekend. George Fury and Peter Brock got off the line together, and it was a frantic dash for the first right-hander. Graham Crosby advanced to 2nd as Gary Scott got shuffled onto the grass, and Brocky advanced to 3rd. The mobile Commodore was running sweetly, while its driver was busy playing traffic warden from the cockpit. Peter Perfect finally made it past Crosby to 2nd and closed up on Fury in the Peter Jackson Nissan. Rear gunner Scott advanced to 3rd in the 2nd Skyline, and when the trio caught Gary Wilmington's Jag in traffic, you knew something just had to give. Scott nosed down the inside of the mobile machine, and Nissan had yet another 1-2 locked up solid. The JPS Black Trackers had their share of troubles. Longhurst ventilated the engine, while Robbie Francevic was coming home strong in the Volvo after starting dead last in the field. At the finish, though, it was Fury clear of Scott with Brocky 3rd. The touring title Car Wars continues next Sunday with round 9 at the Winton Wonderland. You'll be there, you hear?
A big field for the Finnair Appendix J Super Race here at Amaroo Park. The 32nd board has gone up. Bruce Allen is the man on pole position for this race in a Morris Cooper. Sharing the front row, Ray Linneth in a Mustang. Then on the second row, Rick Christian and Dennis O'Brien, both in Mustangs. Third row, John Mann in a Mustang, followed by Robert Tweedy in a Morris Cooper. Then Paul Trevethan and Frank Dartell, followed by Greg Topher and Ted Brewster. Mark Duquette and Mike Dyer complete the top 12 qualifiers. And they're away.
And getting away very quickly indeed was Bruce Allen in the little Mini 34, but he got some V8 stang power coming up here on the outside of him as they disappear up the top of Bitchabave Hill and almost into Finnair. Into Dunlop Loop. Mustangs have taken charge, though. The poor Mini. Bruce Allen, who led them to the top of the hill, is now back in 4th. I don't think he'll come back from there. Oops, little traffic congestion. Oh, not the thing to do in front of a Jag.
David Bryan, car 63. Kevin Anker in car number 8, the Jag.
Well, the Jag couldn't take a good hit.
They work their way down to Honda Corner. We'll watch the many and varied lines. Many here, locking up a break. They've all gone to the inside. Valiant climbing over the curve. And Appendix J Racing, bringing back some memories of the old days at Warwick Farm. So many of these wonderful Mustangs. There's 28. Dennis O'Brien, the race leader, as he heads out of Wonderlick Corner and leads the cars very comfortably up the top of Betchapave Hill.
Good effort by O'Brien to slip through there, having come off the second row of the grid as the fourth fastest qualifier, now to lead the race. John Mann, the fifth fastest qualifier, so they've slipped through in the opening lap to take up the running from Ray Linnett and Bruce Allen. Allen qualified fastest at 58.97, which is a marvellous time in a car of that vintage.
They're already coming up to put a lap on one of the minis so early, so he's well and truly off the pace. Dennis O'Brien, race leader, heads down towards the late corner, starting to close up from about third or fourth on. We'll keep an eye on that for you. Along the straight.
Well, our leader, Dennis O'Brien, with a healthy gap, and here's the gap back to second and third with Mann and Linsett. He's driving the Barry Jupp Mustang. So on one hand, you've got the big Mustangs with the tails hanging out, plenty of oversteer and a lack of brakes. On the other, you've got the Mini with plenty of brakes and heaps of understeer. How the equation ends up in the end, we've got a few laps to see.
Well, the distance of the race, 8 laps. I would think the Mustangs will start to feel the pinch after half race distance. We'll see whether or not Allen can come back in that little Mini, still tucked in there. There he goes. Bruce Allen, fast qualifier with a 58.97 yesterday. Ray Lintott in the Mustang 59.70. So at this stage, Allen feeling the pinch just a little bit. He certainly is an acceleration.
He was almost 1 second faster in practice. It was Bruce Allen from Wollongong. But he has really got his hands full here at the moment with a wall of Mustangs in front. Into car number 7, and Mann's car starting to heat the rear tyres up now as he crosses the start-finish line, heading to the top of the hill at Nissan Skyline. And while all this is occurring, Dennis O'Brien continues to rock away from the field.
Dropping into Dunlop Loop.
These cars are all based on series production cars, of which there must be 100 built prior to 1964. And the spirit of the regulations centred around the way they were in their day, rather than the extra use of modern technology now in terms of tyres and brake paint materials and so on.
Yeah, maybe I found a class for my old mate Dick Johnson.
Touching that.
Mustang power.
Lintott through on the inside now to second place. Mann back into third. Bruce Allen wants to go with him. And Allen might just get up here. The Mustang's having trouble getting the ponies on the road. Oh,
where's he going? Into the pits. He made a big swipe at that.
Thought he found those magic soap suds again.
Across the line, Lintott running in second, Mann is third, and Bruce Allen fourth spot on the little Mini. There's your race leader going through. He's well and truly clear. Dennis O'Brien, number 28. Still a little tyre squirrel there as he works his way down towards Mazda Corner.
You don't see that too often. He had the brakes on midway through the turn. The lights flashed on, so he's either cruising around comfortably or he's in all sorts of strife. It's the gap first to second, and the battle for second, third and fourth, and Allen still trying to plot a way through the maze. Linton now has a healthy gap of around about 3 or 4 car lengths over John Mann from Shepparton in Victoria, going down to his territory next weekend.
Well, the heat is on for second, third, fourth. No trouble for O'Brien, though, the race leader from Wagga, making the most of his outing after the big smoke.
Bruce Allen back in fourth place, formerly a touring car driver in New Zealand. Look at Mann's Mustang getting really sideways across the top when the car gets light. Giving those tyres a workout at the moment, and this is the end of the race with 5 down and 2 to go, where tyres and brakes are starting to feel the heat. The punishment. And look at this group of cars here. There's the old EH Holden, car number 3.
Yeah, things are pretty clear cut up front, but back here in the pack. Love that Valiant.
Steve Trevika in the black entry.
Some weird and wonderful cars fronting out today. We'll go through some of them for you. They're not up running at the front of the field, but I think the old purists would love to see the Valiants. And I've spotted a Bel Air or an Impala in there somewhere.
An ISO Revolta?
It could be. They head down to the lake corner.
Well, they're a long way back on the leaders at the moment. But Trevika in the Valiant managing to...
Oh, dearie me.
If he doesn't get it again, he'll keep trying and trying until he does knock that fence down. He's tapped it about 3 times down there.
Dead set. It's the closest thing I've seen to a miracle Valiant.
I'll tell you what, the black behind the fence moved pretty quickly.
Yeah, you wouldn't hold the pit board out too long, would you?
Well, I tell you what, there would have been 300 people jump back 10 metres in the pits when he walloped the wall there.
Well, the way the thing handles, you'd probably also want to step off the hill because it could end up anywhere.
That's the best it's handled all day too.
It's the leading bunch. Dennis O'Brien, car 28 with 1 lap to go. There's the ball out for the leader. He's increasing his lead.
Yes, he has really opened up a gap.
Lint at second, but Bruce Allen now right underneath the back of the Mustang. There's the leader. Gee, you'd want to be pretty fit the way you have to seesaw on the wheel on these things. Look how far wide of the mark he is at the apex. He could have turned left and gone to the motocross track. Bruce Allen's trying to do the same. He's a Superman. He makes a mini slide. I don't know how you do that.
Well, he's right on the tail of Lintott. Lintott behind Allen there, both having a great fang in their stang.
Well, Mann has gone back into 4th place.
We'll see whether or not the Mini will keep an eye on him to see whether he can get underneath Lintott. Oh, yes, he has. Just missed that, but nevertheless heading down to the lake corner. Race leader, number 28, is Dennis O'Brien. And he comes into Wonderlick corner now for the final time. Checkered flag is at the ready. And the Golden Oldies race presented by Finnair will in fact go to Dennis O'Brien. Scrap is still on for second, but Bruce Allen will pick up that one. Ray Lintott will get home just clear of Mann, picking up 4th place.
Well, that Valiant driver certainly gave the fence a Wonderlick coming out of Wonderlick. He really gave it a caning.
So much for the Golden Oldies crusade here at Amaroo Park. O'Brien picks up the pieces in the Mustang. 2nd spot goes to Allen in the Morris. 3rd spot goes to Lintott in the Mustang. We'll be back.
Well, the Finnair Appendix J Super Race was just that, a super race. And Dennis O'Brien, congratulations. You did pretty well, I think, to slip the pack there at the start. That's where the race was won and lost.
Oh, not bad for an old tart, mate. But these young blokes are getting too quick. I'll have to give it away shortly, I think.
Where do you get any practice for this kind of racing down in Wagga?
Mate, we don't. We're hayseeds. We just sort of smoke out of the bush and get stuck into them, you know? We don't practice. We just sort of turn up and run.
How come you've got such a big markup on the city slickers?
Oh, I think it's all the mechanics, you know? The guys that put all the work into the cars are fantastic, you know? They're tremendous. I would like to thank Finnair very, very much for sponsoring the event. I reckon it's fantastic. Seeing we can't carry sponsorship names on the car, you know, Finnair, thanks very, very much. Also, Yokohama Tyres, John Richardson, thank him very much for his tyre support.
Well, the general manager of Finnair in Australia, Mr. Bayu Yokaranta, was going to make the presentation but couldn't make it, and we've got a very able man here to do it, Max Stahl. Welcome.
Thanks very much, Gary. Well, it's my great pleasure to represent Finnair, the Finnish national airline, in presenting this trophy to Dennis O'Brien. It seems strange that Finnair, an airline that doesn't even operate out of Australia, should be a sponsor of this event, but it's good to have them with us. Dennis, congratulations, a magnificent drive, a perfectly prepared car too, I might add, as is every vehicle in the field, and we're very, very proud of Appendix J. The Finnair trophy, the first one, goes to you. Dennis?
Thanks, Max. Thanks very much.
OK, thank you very much to Max Stahl. Also, thank you to Dennis O'Brien after the Appendix J, the Finnair Super Race here at Amaroo Park. And right now, we're going to take you to Neil Crompton.
In last year's Australian Touring Car Championship, BMW was the dominant brand. The 635 Coupe was ideally suited to the new regulations, and Jim Richards didn't waste his opportunities. But so far this year, things have been just a little scarier for the car from Bavaria. The charmed life led by the JPS BMW team last year was the result of hard work, skilled engineering, being ready with the right car at the right time, and superb driving. Jim Richards, for years the bridesmaid in Australian touring car racing, swept the national title with 7 wins from 10 starts. He dominated qualifying, the race, and even scooped a decade's worth of good luck to often win from behind the 8 ball. Following last year's act was bound to be hard. Jim not only won the national touring car title, he nailed the endurance championship, the championship that makes, and clean sheeted the Better Break Series here at Amaroo. But where are the BMs this year, and what's changed to make Frank's boys work even harder?
Last year we were totally organised when the season started by the way the previous regulations were worded. For some unknown reason we were running a Group A amongst the Group C cars in the previous formulas, so we started the season totally organised. And it's taken, I suppose, 12 months for everybody else to get their act together and obtain more power. We have around about 300 odd horsepower in the big car, about 220 in the little one. And the cars with the turbos have probably got 360 to 380. You have your Commodores now on song with better than 400. We need corners and lots of them. I think if we get on a tight circuit, we're still competitive. And we will be competitive once the long-distance races start. Once your endurance races start, races over a few hours, then we're pretty right there, because you don't get something for nothing in this business, and the turbos use an awful amount of petrol. For argument's sake, probably do about 5 to the gallon or less in old terms, and we do around about 9 to the gallon, so we can hang out there. So they've got to be a long way in front in a pit stop to justify coming in, and they really haven't advanced that much to be that far away. So I suppose we had an excellent season last season. We're hopeful of picking up 1 or 2 rounds of the Endurance Championship. We have a couple of good drivers in Jimmy Richards and Tony Longhurst to share the big car, which is also a plus. And then next year, I suppose we have to hang on until we get a 4-valve engine for the little car, which at the moment has probably 220 horsepower. That comes from 220 horsepower to probably 300 plus, which will light the back wheels of that one up quite nicely. But whether it will be enough to compete with turbo power, because turbo power is a license to print horsepower. You just wind up the boost and you get yourself more power, but you also get less petrol consumption and you get underheat bonnet temperatures. We've only seen the turbos in short races. The Volvos are a proven item overseas, leading the championship, run into a bit of eligibility problems on the last meeting, but in the main a well-proven motor car that does the job and very professionally run at this end of the world.
Well, times may have been just a little tough more recently for the JPS BMW team, but knowing Frank Gardner, he'll be ensuring fairly soon that it won't be too long before Black is back in front once more. Here's Mike.
Thank you, Neil. That was Neil Black on the track. And we have the cars coming out onto the racetrack now for the Camalco Wonderlic Sports Sedan Series. Round 4 here today. Yet another 10-lap screamer, bringing together quite an assortment of cars. The Mazda RX-7s well and truly represented. In fact, it might be timely to go through the grid, how they'll line up today. On pole position, car number 14, Keith Carley in the Mazda RX-7. From 2:41, Mike Griffin in the Mazda. From 3, Bob Jolly, standout Victorian in the Commodore. From 4:49, Bob Tyndall in the Tirana. From 5:33, Albert Cedars in the Mazda RX-7. From 6 is car 6, Trevor Ashby in an Escort. From 7:11, Bill Attard in a Mazda. From 8:37, Graham Stones in a Mazda. From 9:56, Chris Hones in a BMW. From 10:57, John Vernon in an Escort. From 11:63, Greg Crick. And from 12:28, Tony Herbert. Full field, 25 starters today. And starting dead last in the field should be Mark Trenoweth, who, of course, we saw in action in the sports sedan racing in Queensland. He's had problems throughout the weekend. Now, whether or not he will, in fact, line up, he does. I think we're assured of a great race coming from the back of the field.
Sorry, Mike, he had clutch problems yesterday, and in the first heat early today, started off the back of the grid and in a remarkable drive carved his way through the field, and we saw an excellent sports sedan race. So he's hoping we get a carbon copy of that now in our telecast. There's Bob Jolly in the Commodore. Bob Temple, car 49, he was in the thick of it, battling with Carling, pole sitter in the Mazda RX-7, 13B peripheral Ford rotary power. His time in practice 50.92, Griffin 51.02, Bob Jolly 51.14, and Tyndall, the man there, 51.31.
This is not just the 4th round of the Camalco Wonderlic Series, it's the final round of the series this year. And Bob Jolly is the series leader and I don't think he can be beaten.
No, there's 9 points up for a win, and his nearest rival is Mike Griffin, who has 10 points in the series. That'll only give him 19 if he happens to pop a win. So Bob Jolly has nailed one for 1986. There is Mike Griffin, car number 41, backed by Foundation 41 and Nippon Auto Spares.
Just thinking with the sports sedans and the quality of the racing we see from the sports sedans at Amaroo Park, it is good to see the Victorian Bob Jolly doing so well in the Camalco Wonderlic point score. I think Bob has been to all the circuits, supporting all the sports sedan races. And what a show we expect from Winton Motor Raceway next Sunday with Brian Thompson, Brad Jones in the Monza and, of course, the Mercedes. Bob Jolly up from Melbourne. Probably the best sports sedan lineup of the season. And, of course, Rusty French coming back to drive the Porsche in the field too. So
that'll be great.
That certainly will be.
Bob Jolly, V8 Holden loosely based Commodore. McCulloch entry, car number 3, alongside Bob Tindall. 2 rotaries on the front row of the grid, 2 V8s on the second row. And there at the back of the grid in the Lyshart Collarbond entry is Mark Trenoweth. Big 12-cylinder Jag. Look at the field of cars. How do you get through them? He did it in the first heat. Can he do it again?
We're about 10 seconds away from the start of the final of the Camalco Wonderlic Sports Sedan Series from Sydney's Amaroo Park. And they're racing. Carling getting away quickly, but I think Griffin will nab him as they make the right-hand kick, heading up Bitchapay for the first time. No, he doesn't. He's been rounded up left, right and centre. Bob Tindall gets a beautiful start too. Jolly in amongst the thick of it all as they head up the top of the hill and looking for Trenoweth to try and split them early. Carling, though, will lead. Jolly trying to push his way up into second spot. No, he's gone back to third. Tindall is fourth. Griffin is fifth. And look for the field to go through. Trenoweth there has already passed about 5 cars as they make their way down to Mazda corner.
Oh, there's been a nasty one.
Cars in a terrific cloud over there on the back straightaway.
John Leeson in a Capri, I can see, is one of the cars involved in that, but there are about 5 or 6 of them, and it's almost impossible to tell until the smoke clears just who has been trapped in that. What a tangle.
Well, they've got cars everywhere. I think they'll probably flag the race. We'll have to wait and see.
Bill Attard, yeah. Car 21, you mentioned him, John Leeson in the Capri. Attard had one of the leading RX-7s, and I say that in past tense, had one. The field streaming down the straight, heading up to the seam where they'll receive a double yellow. I think the track's almost completely blocked there.
Well, they have to go through there in single file. Full credit go to the track marshals. They pulled doors off cars. Ran through there. One's still open, though. Wait for the field to go through slowly.
Oh, Jesus.
Oh, goodness me.
How ridiculous. Bob Jolly caught in the middle of that. The man that went round the outside was Trevor Ashby in car number 6. I've never seen anything like this in Australian motor racing in my life. Absolutely unbelievable. The red flag is now out. The race should have been stopped a lap before if the seam was that bad.
Well, I don't think the officials on the scene could believe their eyes because they suddenly heard the field roar over the top of the hill. I saw one...
Carling went through on the inside. Ashby went round the outside in the grass, which is diabolical down there because it's wet and greasy, some of the rain that we've had in Sydney. And then Bob Jolly went slap bang into the middle of them. Well, that is just unbelievable. There's one of the Mazdas that was involved in the initial incident.
I saw one of the marshals jump up onto the bank and wave his arms in disbelief to try and signal to the field that the track was obviously blocked, but they'd had no prior warning.
Well, goodness me, I have not seen anything like that for a long time. Here's the replay. Look at the field.
This is the initial incident that triggered it off.
Well, Attard was involved in it, but that's all you can say.
I think 11 was the first car to go.
That's Bill Attard.
Yeah. And from there on, we've had about 6 cars.
We just ran out of track, and there were cars stopped everywhere. This is the scene. Back live with Bill Attard's car, car number 11. There's Jolly's car with the front missing off it, and Leeson's car is the Capri in the background. They appear to be the 3 main protagonists. I can't understand what's happened. If there was a double yellow flag up there, here's another angle. Carling goes through. This is a lap later. Look, Ashby on the outside, Jolly, wham. He had no idea what was going on. Tindall goes through, so does Griffin. But look at Griffin. How did he squeeze through there?
Just.
Oh. If there was a double yellow flag or some indication that there was big trouble, I mean, the marshals would have obviously seen there was plenty of drama down there. So perhaps this one lies fairly and squarely in the laps of the drivers who just didn't button off. Often is the case. We saw some examples earlier on today where under a yellow flag they certainly abide by the regulation and they do not pass each other, but they still try and make up a lot of ground. So tongue-in-cheek, many drivers probably tend to push a little hard under yellow flags. Trenoweth has got problems down here as well. This is at the right-hand exit at the late corner.
Well, they've got a good head of steam up there in Trenoweth's Jag, so he has some major problems. He's hauled up, as you said, just on the exit of Lake Corner down there. They're trying to get the hood up, I guess.
Well, this thing's on fire if they're spraying that much foam around at the moment. It's all fire and brimstone here at the moment.
Well, that's the situation with an incident in the opening lap of the Camalco Wonderlic Sports Sedan Series here at Amaroo Park, but we can report all drivers are okay. Fortunately, we can't, or unfortunately, we can't say the same about the equipment that's probably been wrecked in that second lap where they all piled into the cars, including Bob Jolly. However, they'll clean up the incidents, and we'll be back at Amaroo Park Raceway for more Lightning and Thunder. Welcome back to Sydney's Amaroo Park Raceway. Looks like the remnants of a demolition derby. However, unfortunately, it's the result of a second lap tangle in the Camalco Wonderlic Sports Sedan final here this afternoon. And one must feel sorry for Bob Jolly, car number 3, the series leader going into the final race. And you really could say, in racing terms, he copped it rather cold, with the track partially blocked on the back straight, and then cars going every which way to try and avoid the first lap accident. But it doesn't look too good for Bob Jolly's car.
Well, it'll be interesting to hear the wash-up of this incident, Mike, to find out just what happened there, because there was a tangle back in the field on the first lap that involved about 6 cars, the most prominent of which were car 11, which was Bill Attard's Mazda RX-7, and John Leeson in a Capri. They were the 2 that we could see clearly, but there were 3 or 4 others that got tangled up in the incident after that. Bob Jolly, of course, and Mike Griffin and the other front runners were unaware of that, Bob Tyndall among them, and they scooted round, completed 1 lap, then came up over the top of Bitchapave Hill. Meantime, officials on that back section of the track were down there ripping doors open and getting drivers out, fully expecting that the rest of the field would be flagged down and the race would be halted. But blow me down, the cars have come over the top of the hill full tilt. Now, whether or not they had the flag or not, I don't know, but they didn't appear to make any attempt to slow down, unaware, I would think, that there was a real problem. And they've gone slap bang, particularly Bob Jolly had nowhere to go. He went slap bang into the middle of it.
Notice here they're trying to clean up the circuit over there. We believe the race has been reduced to 5 laps. And at the moment, they're just waiting to load the rather damaged number 11 Mazda RX-7 of Bill Attard, one of the drivers involved in the first lap shunt. So at this stage, let's cross down to the pit area now to Neil Crompton.
Welcome back. And welcome back to Amaroo Park. Well, certainly we've been turning on some action here in the last couple of months. Twice in 2 meetings we've had to stop proceedings, so we thought we might take this opportunity to go and find out just exactly what happened. Behind me here at the moment is Mike Griffin in car number 41, the Mazda RX-7. He was one driver who, on that second time around, you may recall, was confronted with bits and pieces, broken cars. And Mike Griffin, I guess you, like 2 or 3 of these other competitors, were pretty surprised to see the scene down there.
Yes, we had the double yellows as we came into the loop, which of course is a warning to everybody that something is going wrong. Majority of the drivers slow down for the double yellows, and of course you don't really expect a completely blocked track. You expect an incident which will slow you down. You expect an incident which you've got to be wary of. But the rule book's very clear on it. The double yellows are waved. You're supposed to slow to a walking pace. Unfortunately, we collected another car in the rear when we tried to do that. However, we were fortunate. We managed to get through the red cars, and obviously we're ready to regrid for another crack at it.
Yes, we saw a replay of you trying to squeeze through on the inside. There wasn't much room there.
No, we ended up going through to the right of the track, actually. There was a gap in the carnage actually off the track. It was even hard work finding a gap in the rough. The track was completely blocked. Of course, poor Bob Jolly found that out. There's no doubt you saw in the replay. We were close enough to see poor Bob going.
Well, we've got a 5-lap rerun of this event, as I understand, coming up fairly shortly, so fingers crossed. Bit better luck this time for you, Mike Griffin. The other fellow that was involved in all of this drama was Trevor Ashby here in this rather ferocious-looking escort, and the last time that we saw Trevor, he was hurtling across the top of the hill, and you ended up having to take to the grass to get around the outside of all the action. What happened?
Yes, that's right. By the time I saw the double yellows, there wasn't very much time left. We committed ourselves to the corner. We'd come out of the corner and there was cars right across the track. There's no other way around except onto the grass.
Plenty of flag warning?
Oh, there was a little bit of flag warning.
And how did you survive it all?
The times were pretty hectic that early in the race, and although we try and see all the flags, we did see them I did see them. It was fairly late.
You've still got 4 corners on the car, so obviously things are okay for the rerun.
I've had a little bit of a nudge on the first corner there from one of the cars behind me when I just went around the outside of him, but it didn't affect me all that much.
All right then, Trevor. Well, in fact, we might have a look at you guys later on with more sports sedan action. And in fact, as I said, we've got a 5-lap rerun of this event. But in the meantime, let's go to Gary Wilkinson.
Thank you very much, Neil Crompton. Well, what a mess. It's going to take them a few minutes to get that sorted out. And of course, we don't really have any clear idea at this stage just how many cars are going to take their place in this 5-lap rerun. Because, as I said, there were about a half dozen involved in the initial incident, and then Bob Jolly for one, and possibly 1 or 2 others have suffered damage the second time round. So we started out with a full, and Mark Trenouth, of course, as we saw in a totally unrelated incident down at the lake corner, I think looked pretty terminal. There was a fire under the bonnet there, so I think the field of 25 here is probably going to be reduced to about 15 when they get them gridded up, but that may be some little time yet. In the meantime, Neil Crompton has hot-footed it out of pit lane across to the garage area here at Amaroo Park to pick up on another story for us with one of the old-timers of motor racing.
Every sport has its old and sometimes successful stages, and in the sport of motor racing, when you look back through the history books over the last 30 years or so, there's one name that's been synonymous with the sport. Bob Holden, you've been racing for just about longer than anybody else that I can imagine, and yet you still enjoy it and you still aspire to bigger and better things.
Well, it's one of those things. I'm still enjoying it because it's been good to us over the years, and the important thing is the people, and we've really enjoyed being here, and I still am, so that's why I'm still doing it.
Have you had any real highlights in your career? Of course, back in '66, which a lot of people have forgotten now, you were the winner of the old Bathurst race, the James Hardy 1000 yesteryear in a Mini Cooper.
Yeah, well, that was one of our better moments, of course. I had the help of one of the world's best rally drivers, Rano Elton, of course, and he made it possible, and, you know, it's just one of those things. Just being with those people just lifted just not only my own, but everybody in the minis in those days, they all lifted. We had Hopkirk and Mackinnon and Elton, and then eventually Tony Fore came out from England, and they just made it so much better for us.
The sport has really changed a lot, though, hasn't it? Money's come into it, professionalism, entertainment.
Yeah, well, everything you said is there, but it's, you know, the professionalism is so much better. We'd like to think we're pretty professional in our amateur way, but when you see the other guys, it's not so good, really.
Do you think it's changed for the better, Bob, or was it better in the old days?
Well, it's a lot difficult for anyone to enter the sport now. You can't get into the sport because of the fact that it's just too expensive. Over the years, I've tried to help a lot of the young guys. Like I've owned a couple of Formula Fords, which I can't even drive, but I've put other guys in them to try and bring them up. But, you know, it's damned hard for anyone to get in because it's just too much money.
Fond memories from the last 35-odd years?
Oh, lots of them, I guess. You don't sort of think about it until someone reminds you or someone walks up and says, "Hi, Bob," you know. And, you know, we had one guy walk in the workshop the other day that I hadn't seen for 20 years, and he just looked like it was yesterday, you know. It's crazy.
More recently, you've begun campaigning this 2-litre Toyota Sprinter, and very successfully. You've had a couple of good runs, and one that springs to mind was the Sandown race earlier in the year. But they tell me that you're going off to Spa to compete in the world's biggest touring car race.
Yes, well, that's the incentive I've had this year. Every circuit I've been to this year, I'm at least half a second a lap better every time I come. I think it's lifted my driving, just the incentive. I'm sort of, I don't know, it's just been a new incentive. And I've been asked to drive by Jeff Kimber-Smith from England. He's one of the Toyota help drivers over there. He'll come to Bathurst to drive with me, of course, in exchange. You don't get anything for nothing in this crazy game. But that's what we're looking forward to. I'm also taking Don Smith, Big Don Smith, as a number 3 for us. So it'll be a half Australian team, and I hope Channel 7's there to see us.
Well, we'll follow your progress, and of course Peter Brock and Alan Moffat, Alan Grice and all the rest of the team, and hope that the next 30 years in motorsport for you are just as good, Bob. Bob Holden, one of the great heroes of Australian motorsport. Here's Mike Raymond.
Today's fourth round of the Better Breaks AMSCAR Series here at Amaroo Park is vitally important, not only for Colin Bond, but also for Tony Longhurst. Only 2 points separate those two drivers after 3 very, very tough rounds of competition. And of course, in our Australian Touring Car Championship telecast, we have but 2 rounds remaining for the 1986 crowd. And it's come down to a race between Nissan and, of course, Volvo. The Fury and Francevic show has been the talking point of this year's Australian Touring Car Championship. Yugoslavian-born Kiwi Robbie Francevic is an extrovert, while Hungarian George is a country boy, retiring in nature but never behind the wheel. The classic confrontation between, as the Aussie wags would put it, the Doctors Markey and the Sukiyaki goes down to the wire at Winton in Ned Kelly country next Sunday. The Autodromo de Benalla hosted the opening round of the title last year. Everyone was testing the Group A category for the first time, and BMW had all the answers.
It's strange how things go. We were on the pace last year, and this year it seems that we're not quite on the pace, but in actual fact our car is going a lot better than it was last year, but of course the opposition is going a lot better as well. But Winton being the circuit it is, maybe we could be a bit closer.
Winton is also the home track of George Fury. He's 21 points behind in the title tilt, but in there with a big chance, just the same.
It's a long shot, Mike. It's sort of a matter of it's George's home circuit, I suppose. It's close to where he lives. We don't do a lot of mileage there. We don't go there very often, but I think we'll go well there. I think the car is suited to win. It'll sort of put its power down over the slow corners quite well. And George is a fighter, and he'll fight every inch of the way. He knows he's got to win the race to do well in the point score, and he's got to win at Amaroo Park as well. So it's a matter of us winning the next 2 rounds and see where Robbie comes. And it's a matter of going there and doing the best we can on the day.
The final round of the title will again be held at Sydney's Amaroo Park on July 13. The park was an ideal layout for Francevic last year. He won the Castrol Grand Final going away from the opposition. It was no contest.
Things have been stretched fairly tight over the last period of time, which is due to a multitude of things. When you're setting up a new team and new personnel, it's very, very difficult, and we've certainly had to... We were living up to Malcolm Fraser's statement about life wasn't meant to be easy, but I believe, yes, the car has got it, and so does Robbie have it, and I'm quite sure, building on what we've been doing, we're not desperate to win them, we just want to build up points. Robbie is saying, oh, I want to win from the front, but I don't care where we win from. A championship's a championship, and plenty of people have won world championships without winning a race or with winning one race. So, yeah, we're quite happy with the way we're going.
How times change in this world of motorised competition. 85 was the BMW banner year in Australia. Jimmy Richards won 7 of the 10 championship races. This year it's been Volvo versus Nissan from round 1, with only Brocky splitting them once in the Commodore. Only Winton and Amaroo Park can supply the answer as to who will wear the national crown for 1986.
And here we are back live at Amaroo Park, where they're about to rerun the final round of the Comalco Wonderlic Sports Sedan Championship with a reduced field and a reduced race. 5 laps only, and only 19 runners now out of the original field of 55 after that first lap pile-up when they first tried to get it started. So it's a completely different looking grid.
Carling and Griffin back on the front row had a couple of words, different blokes down there about what happened. Apparently it seemed as though Bill Ahart and a couple of other fellas touched around the back had just set off the reaction that we saw on air, and the rest is all history. Anyway, we're ready for another start. This one over 5 laps. Trenowith is not there on the back of the grid, of course. The fire in the big Jag. There's the gaps in the grid. And we're only a few seconds away from the start. Now 10 seconds, in fact. Tyndall in the middle, in the second row, then Ashby.
Flag is up. Carling and Griffin head-to-head off the front of the grid. And getting off to a good start was Carling, but I think Griffin may gather him in as they head up Bitcher Pave for the first time. There's the field, sweeping up Bitcher Pave Hill. And at the head of the pack, looking for them to break over the top and drop down into Dunlop Loop. It, in fact, is Carling. He's clear of Mike Griffin as they make their way through the corner. And now work their way down to the back part of the racetrack near Mazda Corner where the incident occurred.
2 Mazdas in the lead, Trevor Ashby in the Escort next. Then Bob Tyndall in the V8 Tirana. Through the left-hander. seaters having a pretty bad run through the tight one at Honda there in car 33.
Series leader Bob Jolly is one of the cars missing from the field. There's somebody else that's gone missing. Oh, bits and pieces flying everywhere.
Yes. Well, coming out of Honda corner, and it was John Vernon in the QBE Insurance Escort who went off. But Ashby all over the back of Griffin here as they come to the top of Nissan Skyline, and it's still Carling from Dubbo in New South Wales who leads in the rotary-powered Mazda.
As I said, Bob Jolly did not make the restart for this race. Obviously, you should have seen from the damage that his car sustained, but he will be the winner of the overall series. He's got an unbeatable points lead.
Trevor Ashby staying in touch with the two Mazdas up front. And right behind him, Bob Tyndall in car number 49 as they exit Honda corner, make their run down to the lake turn, the right-hander. And here they come. Tyndall getting very close indeed as they come out of the corner. Ashby up on the inside of Griffin. And snatches him on the inside too, but whether or not Griffin, they're banging guards. Tyndall gets in for a bit of the taste of this. He's warming to all this lot. Griffin has been shuffled back in the pack as they drop down into Dunlop Loop. There's Carling going through. Ashby is the next one, followed by Tyndall. Got the best of that. And coming back underneath Tyndall as they come off that turn and doing it very effectively is Mike Griffin in the Nippon Auto Spares Mazda RX-7. There's plenty of action going on here at the front of the field. It doesn't involve Keith Carling, the race leader, though. But it certainly does involve these two cars. Tyndall again coming down to put the pressure on Mike Griffin. Griffin goes in much deeper under brakes. There's Carling coming out of the lake turn. Ashby is the next one, and here comes Tyndall up on the inside and retakes. Oh, a little touch there. All's fair in love and war in the Camalco Wonderlic saga here today at Amaroo Park. It's Griffin going through. We'll see whether or not he can get back on racing terms with Bob Tyndall.
Tell you what, after this, you'll be able to start a scrap fiberglass yard.
Yes, they'll be looking for some spares and fiberglass for the Mazdas. And through this part of the course, you'll notice that Griffin really does get back on even terms with Bob Tyndall.
It's just a fight for third place.
When Griffin, Ashby in strife in the dirt, saves it.
Should give
hangs on in second place.
Should give half of this lot a motocross bike.
Griffin got whacked in the backside, of course, in the first heat, if you can call it that, just a few moments ago, and it's crushed the exhaust pipe up underneath the floor of the car, so it's running very much restricted at the moment. Wouldn't be helping the Rotary's cause at all.
1 lap to go for the leader, Carling.
I tell you what, the real scrap is back behind, and we'll catch that as they drop over the top of the hill. Now there's the race leader.
Carling, car number 14. This car producing about 300 brake horsepower. It's identical to the type of power plant that powered the popular Group C touring cars. Here's the battle for second, third and fourth. Ashby, Tyndall, Griffin. But the thing about Carling's car is it's very light. Ordinary Mazda RX-7 in Group C trim was about 960 kilograms. This car, and Tyndall's off. Griffin's given him a bit of biffo, and Tyndall does a nice little pirouette at Honda corner, grabs first gear, and is off in fourth place. No shortage of action in the sports sedans as the checkered flag comes out, and Carling has come away with the gold on this one and takes the win in car number 14. Here's Trevor Ashby in second. He survived all the drama of the day. He'll be laughing tonight. Griffin the next man through, and then the easy pad car number 37, Stones.
Well, for some lightning and thunder, you've had it all in the Camalco Wonderlic Series. Carling takes the gold, Ashby picks up second, Griffin pips his way to third.
Well, goodness gracious me, it took us a while to get up here to make this presentation after the final round of the Camalco Wonderlic Sports Sedan Series. And I think for the 5-lap rerun, we barely got 20 starters. But the man that came off pole position, I guess it's only rightful that he should end up taking the checkered flag. But it was a bit of an adventure to get there, Keith.
Certainly was, Gary. Thanks very much. Yes, we've put a lot of effort actually into getting the car to the standard it is now. And there's one fellow that I'd really like to thank. He's put the last 2 years' work into it, and that's Barry Campbell from Wollongong. Barry designed and built the car, and of course he still prepares it for me, and it's his efforts that got me where I did today. It wasn't really a lot to do with me.
That first lap incident must have been a bit of a shock to come over the top of the hill there and find the track pretty well completely blocked.
Yes, it certainly was. I did a bit of a dashing a dart and a weave and got through it all right. But
well, you were one of the lucky ones.
Yes, that's right.
I felt a bit sorry for Bob Jolly because, well, he's got the overall series wrapped up anyway, but it was a bit of a disaster for him.
Yeah, it was actually. This is a bit of a win by default because it was a shame that Bob and also Mark in the Jag couldn't race in the final. But we're pleased that we got the pole and we got the race.
Big effort. Congratulations on behalf of Kamalko Wunderlich, and that completes that series. But of course, there's lots of sports sedan racing to come throughout the remainder of the season, and of course back here at Amaroo Park next year. Look forward to seeing you, Mike Griffin. If I could just have a brief word with you after we got the restart up and running, you had quite a battle there with Bob Tyndall.
Yes, unfortunately we don't a lot on horsepower on Bob. And we've got 285 and his is somewhere between 6 and 6.5 depending on who you believe. So it puts us at a reasonable disadvantage, but fortunately the RX-7 is a wonderful motor car. It handles well, it stops well, points well. We had a little bit of a coming together on one corner down there where, I don't know, I'm assuming I'll be kind to Bob and say he didn't see us, moved across in front of us, and the collision was obvious. But we were happy to come home third.
Okay, congratulations. Nice to see the sports sedan boys providing almost more action than we can handle here at Amaroo Park today in the final round of the Kamalko Wunderlich Sports Sedan Series. Right, we're going to take you back now to Mike Raymond.
Thank you, Wilco. As I said before, plenty of fun and games for the series final of the Kamalko Wunderlich Sports Sedans here this afternoon at Amaroo Park Raceway. Coming up, we've got Bernie Hanley and the boys for the final of the Coca-Cola Bottlers Formula V Series. 10 laps the distance. V's already lined up in the pit area, ready to come out onto the racetrack. And every time we look at a grid sheet here at Amaroo for a round of the V's, let me tell you, Bernie Hanley's name is always at the top of the list. So here is how they'll line up this afternoon in the Coke Formula V final. From position 1 is car 1, Bernie Hanley in the Renmax. From 2 is car 2, Stephen David. From 3 is car 3, Frank Kleinig in the Mako. From 4, number 10, Norm Johnston. From 5, number 11, Greg McCombie. From 6, car 13, Dennis Gillespie. From 7, 14, Peter Warren. From 8, car number 5, Phil Lewis. From 9, car 8, David Smith. From position 10, car 12, David Cutts. From position 11, 25, Michael Kaskadden. From 12, 78, Nigel Hook. And of course they round up only a portion of the field, 19 starters in all in this afternoon's final, which has been reduced from 10 to 5 laps. But the man they'll all have to beat is the super vet of the fresh air class here at Amaroo, and that's Bernie Hanley. Number 2 there, Stephen David, who is a model of consistency around the Amaroo Park layout. Frank Kleinig, of course, third on the grid today. So the drivers are set, the officials are just about set, so we'll take a break and return for the Formula V's, their bottlers here at Amaroo Park.
Back at Amaroo Park, we welcome you for the final of the Coca-Cola Bottlers Formula V Series. This is round 4. That man there is Stephen David. He was involved in some drama here last time at the 3rd round, but the situation at the moment sees Hanley on pole position and comfortably the series leader with 24 points. Kleinig in 2nd place in the championship with 15. Stephen David in 3rd with 8. Tim Wood, the next man, with 6. Michael Kaskadden with 5. And there's Bernie, the super vet, the man who is the boss of the Formula V scene and has been for quite some time. Actually, Kaskadden, talking about that driver in car number 25 as we look at Stephen David, tells me this morning that he's off to England in a couple of months' time, so it's the last time that we'll see him in Formula V. He works in Australia at the moment for the Ferrari importers, and he's going to work in England for Ferrari, and he's going to be driving a Formula Ford over there, so that's not a bad jump from Amaroo in a Formula V. There's Kleinig, car number 3, the black car. He too involved in some drama the last time here at Amaroo Park, but in our last 7 Sport telecast at Lakeside, he put on a great show for us. Norm Johnston, car number 10, as the 30-second siren warns the drivers that we're preparing for a start for a reduced race in this final over 5 laps.
Well, depending whether Bernie gets the jump on the boys, 5 laps, a 50% reduction in the distance could go against anyone who's trying to come through from maybe the 2nd or the 3rd row. We're about 10 seconds away from the start of the Coca-Cola Bottlers Formula V Series round 4 at Amaroo Park. And they're racing, and getting away quickly was Bernie on the inside. Stephen David going with him up the hill, but slips in right behind him as they make their way up. Norm Johnson also made a very, very good start indeed. Peter Warren also away quickly, so too was David Smith and Mike Cascadden.
The big problem for the drivers as they crest the top of that hill at this stage of the year, with today being the shortest day, is the sun in your eyes. And that's been part and parcel with some of the problems here today as the drivers rush across the top of this and skyline. But the V's get through quite cleanly, and it's Bernie in the lead from Stephen David. Kleinig, the next man in the black car. Car number 14 there, the immaculate presentation. It's being driven by Peter Warren.
Oops.
Oh, there's cement dust and all sorts of things out on the circuit there at the moment. But they all skate through. And this has got the makings of a great race, although Bernie's in the lead. The battle for the minor placings is far from over.
Greg McCombie putting the pressure on there in number 11. You can see coming through the field. Bernie, my boy, in front. David in second. Right behind him is Kleinig in the Mako number 3.
Lucky the nose of Kleinig's car is shaped the way it is, or he'd have the exhaust pipe of David's car right through the bodywork.
Making a run up the hill, and here comes Kleinig up on the inside of David. Not too much room there for passing as they sweep over the top of Skyline and drop into Dunlop Loop. There goes Bernie through. The changing of positions here as Kleinig now goes through to pick up second spot. Clear of Stephen David. McCombie sitting in there with them as well as they make their way down to Mazda Corner. Bernie at this stage looking pretty good to wrap up the series. Here's McCombie, number 11. Downhill run to the left-hander at Honda.
So far this year, Hanley has had 2 wins and a second placing for his 24 points, and Kleinig on the right-hand side of the screen, a win and a second placing. He didn't get a result at the last meeting, as I said before, when he went off with this man here, Stephen David, on the left-hand side of screen, car number 2. And Bernie's getting away all the time at the moment in this dice for second, third, fourth. Car number 11, Greg McCombie, in one of the ultra-new generation style Formula Vs, and a little fiberglass replica of a ground effect style of car with the driver seated well forward in the chassis.
Good scrap coming in here behind the race leader. There's Bernie Hanley going through. Look at this. Number 11, of course. Greg McCombie trying to sweep there to the outside.
Norm Johnston has dropped back a few slots.
They've moved up on Stephen David, who shared the front row with Bernie Hanley. He's fallen back into the clutches of McCombie at this stage. And once again, McCombie comes down on the inside of David. Will try and nip him, locks up a brake, climbs over a curve. That's all fair. Norm Johnson just sitting back behind them, and in fact making a run down on the inside of McCombie. These three having a good scrap behind the race leader, Bernie Hanley, and of course Frank Kleinig. David in third, McCombie is fourth, out of Wonderlic Corner and across the line, with only a couple of laps remaining.
Interesting thing is that Kleinig is getting very close now to the back of Hanley as McCombie comes out from behind Stephen David, and I think he's got through.
Yes,
there's Bernie and Kleinig, yes, and McCombie through to third position, and Bernie has lost the advantage of that excellent lead that he enjoyed for the first couple of laps. Remember, this is a shortened race over 5 laps, and Kleinig is well aware of that and is right up behind Bernie at the moment. Wants to argue all the way. He cannot win the series. Hanley's got that comfortably. But there's honour at stake in this final round. And these are the 2 top Formula V drivers at the moment. A shame we don't have Ian Simpson down from Queensland. He ran well last weekend at Lakeside. Of course, we saw him here last year in the Coca-Cola Formula V Series. But at the moment, the 2 main protagonists, Hanley and Kleinig, coming through now to greet the last lap forward. About 1.9 kilometres separates these 2 drivers from the checkered flag, and look at Kleinig.
Kleinig trying to make a big run up here, but he'll have to out-accelerate Bernie, get to the top, and move across to the right very quickly indeed. Maybe he's done it. Woo. Over the top now, trying to tuck in very, very neatly. No, he hasn't done it. Maybe as they come out of the turn and work their way onto the back straight. Yes, Kleinig now takes over, but look at Bernie coming back. Bernie's got serious all of a sudden. And that's the widest line I've ever seen through Mazda Corner.
The way Kleinig left the door open there coming through the Dunlop Loop, I thought that Hanley was going to go back underneath him. Certainly invited him to, but then slammed the door in his face. Bernie working hard now with half a lap to go. Down to the right-hander for the last time. This will be brave. He's gone right underneath his rear wheel, but pulls back, pulls wide, looking for the slingshot out of the corner. Kleinig out just a little wide. Hanley underneath him.
Coming now to Wonderlick corner for the last time. He's edging up alongside. They'll go wire to wire, side by side. There's no room. Bernie looks across. Nothing separates them. Oh, and Hanley, I think, by a millimetre or two.
But certainly no more.
Oh.
That was close indeed. I think Bernie may have got that. Wilco being a good man for punters.
Home by a nose. Let's have a look at the Castrol scoreboard. Compliments of Digital, and the win goes to, we think, Bernie Hanley. Yeah. Second placing goes to Frank Kleinig, and third placing to Greg McCrombie.
Heard Frank Kleinig say who won it. I can tell you, Frank, Bernie Hanley won it.
Oh, thank you very much.
Well, I'll be blowed. 3 wins and a second in the 4 rounds of the Coca-Cola Series here, Bernie, and you've done it again. You're the king.
Thank you, mate. Very close.
The racing was unbelievably close. That last half lap, or the last lap, was just the best V racing we've seen here all season.
Oh, that's good. That's very good. Actually, the lap before, I wanted Frank to pass me, but he wouldn't.
Why did you want him to pass you?
Well, normally whoever leads into the last lap doesn't win the race.
I've heard that old story before. That's how the script goes. Mike Waller is here from Coca-Cola to make the presentation to you, and very well done, Frank.
Yes, on behalf of Coca-Cola Bottlers, tremendous win there, Bernie.
Thank you very much, mate. Thank you very much, Coca-Cola.
Okay, we're being drowned out by the cars here as they come out for the Better Breaks AMSCAR Series. We'll take you back to Mike Raymond.
Roger Wilco. And Bernie Hanley strikes gold again at Amaroo Park Raceway this afternoon. Well, the field, as Gary mentioned, coming out now for this afternoon's 20-lap final of round 4 of the Better Breaks AMSCAR Touring Car Series. And I think we're in for a very entertaining race, the 20-lapper this afternoon. Not the most ideal conditions in terms of drivers at the top of the hill, but let's have a look how they'll line up. Pole position, John Bow and the Volvo from 2:15, Glenn Seaton in the Nissan from 3, number 1, Jim Richards, the BMW from 4:25 is Tony Longhurst, from 5:33, Mike Bergman, from 6:75, Colin Bodden, from 7, car 2, Graham Bailey, from 8:47, Brian Callahan, from 9:34, Gary Rogers, from 10:28, Tony Cabbage, from 11:77, Peter Williamson, and from 12:29, Ken Davidson. And we've seen 2 races so far, the 5-lapper, which saw both the Volvo of John Bow and the Nissan both fail to finish with only minor problems. Then Glenn Seaton get up in Heat 2, the 10-lapper, to win that from John Bow. Now, tyres could really prove difficult here for the Commodore drivers over the 20-lap distance. They're trying to get some heat into them at the moment. The field of 16 starters for this afternoon's 4th round. That's Mike Bergman, car number 33, the Commodore. Is forming up behind the other cars, so they really haven't had a couple of laps warm up on tyres, so they're starting with dead cold tyres. That's why you see a few of them here trying to do a burnout, try and get some heat into the tyres before the start. There's Bergman, Tony Cabbage in the Yellow Pages directory entry. Went off the circuit in Heat 1, finished up almost against the wall into the lake. The fellow who's laughing there. Yeah. Yes, problems with the trajectory of the Yellow Pages directory. Glenn Seaton, car number 15, winner of the second heat today. It's imperative that Seaton gets off the line very, very quickly indeed to head John Bow. Jimmy Richards sitting in behind them. Tony Longhurst is there as well.
30 seconds. Bear in mind the point score. Longhurst 187, 6 clear of Colin Bond 181, Jim Richards 178. Gary Rogers won't be a starter. He's 4th in the series with 115 points. Fuel injection problems with the Bob Jane T-Marts BMW. 10 seconds remain before the start. The national flag about to be raised. Glenn Seaton on the front row with John Bow. The revs build. Listen to the turbos. Concentration on the face of Seaton as the flag falls, and Longhurst, a blinder of a start, goes to try and split the 2 turbos, but it'll be John Bow who heads the field up towards Nissan for the first time. Richards up into 2nd position or 3rd position, and this is race camp through the eyes of Tony Longhurst, 325 BMW.
John Bow takes over the lead into Dunlop Loop for the first time, keeping in mind they're all on cold tyres, skating through that right-hander. Now on to the run to Mazda corner. Johnny Bow and the Valvoline Volvo leads from Glenn Seaton. Jimmy Richards is the next one to go through. Then Mike Bergman, followed by Brian Callahan and just behind him, Colin Bond trying to get through smartly. Longhurst really lost the best part of that start around the loop area, and he's back to about 6th or 7th as the rest of the field goes through. Meanwhile, on the run to Lake Corner, there's the gap between our race leader, John Bauer, in the Valvoline Volvo and the Peter Jackson Nissan with Glenn Seaton at the wheel.
Bauer was the winner of the 3rd round of this series here last time, and he's come up into 5th position in the championship. He and Seaton having problems in the first heat earlier on this afternoon. So it's Jim Richards back in 3rd place at the moment, who's looking pretty good for the overall victory today. In the outright point score, this is going to be a very interesting race. Colin Bond's a fair way back, so too is Tony Longhurst. The 2 Commodores are up there, Brian Callahan and Mike Bergman. 20 laps the journey. Bauer locking up an inside front, then lifts it off the ground as he comes through that left-hander at Honda Corner and is sprinting away, opening up a very healthy gap. I'll put the watch on it. And his gap over Glenn Seaton is now 4.5 seconds.
Yes, he stormed off the line, John Bauer. In the last half lap, he has really opened a gap. There he goes. There's the gap. Seaton, Richards. 2 or 3 back to Bond, sideways coming out of the corner as they head up the hill. And 2 have collided here, Mike Bergman and Callahan pulling. They've had a coming together down in the bottom turn.
They've run each other up into the pit lane.
By the look of it. And that will put Mike Bergman's car in a very, very difficult situation down in the bottom turn. I guess the officials at this stage trying to move it out of the way.
We just heard there in the background, I think his car's still running as he tried to move it away, so hopefully it won't cause any problems when John Bauer comes round. He's only about 20 seconds away from doing that, and in fact Bergman is circulating back on the track.
Here comes John Bauer, but I think you'll find that back behind Bauer...
Yes, there's a real battle on here with Richards having a go at the back of Glenn Seaton. Look at the skid marks into that pit lane area. They've gone in there very hard.
There's Richards up against the wall as he works the outside line heading up Pitchpave Hill. So Richards, the master of Amaroo during season 85, at least staying in touch with the young turbo man, the 21-year-old Glenn Seaton, in the 15 Peter Jackson Nissan, down towards Mazda Corner. Let's have a look what happened with this Mike Bergman. There's Brian Callahan wedged against the wall almost here. Their cars have touched. Callahan's trying to get out from under, but they come into contact again. Bergman wipes the speed off quite nicely, but goes into the pit lane, except he catches a bit of rubber on the way through. You can be thankful that they have those big tractor tyres there. Wouldn't have liked to have taken a concrete pole or something.
But it would have destroyed about $100,000 worth of touring car pretty smartly, that's for sure.
A little bump like that wouldn't worry Callahan. He's used to more of that. Pretty hard-headed, a bit of contact, but he looked like he was really being the meat in the sandwich in that deal.
Meanwhile, Richard's still working away at the back of Glenn Seaton, who this afternoon, just a little earlier, if you weren't with us, picked up his first win in the Nissan Skyline since joining the Nissan team. That's the gap from 1st to 2nd to 3rd. John Bauer off and clean, disappearing in the distance. And Seaton, then Richards. And Colin Bond has managed to clear himself for the rest of the traffic and is up into 4th place ahead of Tony Longhurst, then Tony Cabbage, and then Graham Bailey. That's the order. What a day of drama at Amaroo Park.
They come back across the line. And positions unchanged at the front of the field.
5 laps completed, 15 to go in this final heat today of the 4th round of the Better Brakes AMSCAR Series. Richards. So there's still plenty of time for things to happen in this race. As they stand at the moment, though, with 6.5 laps, 5.5 laps rather gone, it's John Bauer leading from Glenn Seaton in 2nd place and Jim Richards holding down 3rd.
The dice for 4th place continues in the Better Brakes AMSCAR Series final here this afternoon at Amaroo. Colin Bond in 4th, right behind him Tony Longhurst. Longhurst, of course, the man who leads the points table after 2 races of round 4. And the man challenging, of course, is Colin Bond, and he's in front at this stage. They've been having quite a scrap. Only a couple of laps ago in that Mike Bergman, Brian Callahan incident, Tony Longhurst was sitting right behind them. Let's see if we can pick up something. You see Callahan's been wedged against the wall by Bergman. They've come into contact. They've slid off. Bang goes Bergman. And Tony Longhurst was able to go through.
This is a good scrap, this, isn't it?
It's great. Tony's only 6 points clear of Colin Bond at the moment in the series battle. It's the giant-killing V6 Alpha and the little six-cylinder 325 BMW. Very evenly matched motor cars. They've had some great dices all year, not only in the Better Break Series, but also in the Australian Touring Car Championship. And come the longer distance races later this year, these cars are going to give us some great entertainment because they'll be there at the end of the race, both very reliable. And you can see that Bond's car, which is down a bit on horsepower after they changed engines last night and put what they called their old nail back inside, is pulling away just a smidge down the straight, but Longhurst catching through these tight and twisty sections of the course. Here's race cam. Bond's car sliding around as they come up onto the back of the Mustang. And as they come through the right-hander at Mazda, you may see at the bottom, we've got Jim Richards out in the dirt. You'll see a bit of the dust. There it is. They go round the Mustang, but Richards got all out of shape.
He's back on the track, Richards, but running very slowly. They'll be passing him shortly if he doesn't get a move on.
Yeah, we'll probably see that.
There's Richards in the late corner, and Bond and Longhurst coming down very quickly on his tail. Longhurst trying to go round the outside, tries to duck back under, but Bond's got just a little too much for him.
And while all this is going on, the two leaders are bunching up a little as well, so this one's a long way from over. Bond, car number 75, down the main straight with Tony Longhurst in hot pursuit. Both of them very evenly matched in their horsepower output. And, of course, Longhurst is a specialist here at Amaroo Park. He goes wide as they come to the Dunlop Loop. Bond covers his ground. Now Tony tries to bring the BMW underneath him, but this corner comes back out on you and can leave you in all sorts of strife. We saw what can happen in the sports sedans. Flat strap through Mazda corner.
10 laps to go. Half distance. Richards is up and running again, as you can probably see, going through there in the foreground.
Listen to Tony. Easy on the throttle. Great shot of the back of Colin Bond's head. He's hard at work at the moment. See him cover his ground. So Longhurst is forced wide. He then comes through for a run on the inside. That's the smart way of doing it, but you've got to get power to the ground and you've got to find a gap. It's not there at the moment. Up onto the straight. The Alpha sideways once more. Out, careful of the fence, and power to the ground. Notice how carefully they feather the throttle so not to hit up those back tyres. Okay, back at the head of the field, we have got John Bowe coming under pressure at the moment from Glenn Seaton.
They're having a great scrap. Keeping in mind, Bowe was probably 5 or 6 cars in front. However, at this stage, young Glenn Seaton has been able to pull back that gap, and he's sitting right in behind John Bowe as they go down to the late corner again. He'll have to plot his move on Bowe very, very carefully. It might have to be the horsepower move heading up the hill, because Bowe will show Seaton the widest Volvo that he's ever likely to encounter. They come through Camalco Wonderlic corner again, reeling off the laps. 54.3 the last lap time to the Volvo.
And John qualified yesterday in 52.73, so they're about a second and a half off their pace.
Well, Seaton will have a tough time getting past Johnny Bowe. He shut more doors than a boarding school nun.
He has indeed. So Bowe holding on at the moment. Oh, Wilco, you're breaking me up.
Through Mazda corner. Coming up on some cars to lap.
That's going to make it interesting. I think that's the big chance that Seaton's been looking for.
The car they'll be moving up on is David Radcliffe in the Toyota Levin. We'll just see how he dispenses with him. They come along the short straight to Wonderlic corner.
We've got two separate races going on here for first and second. The one on screen between Bowe and Seaton. Jim Richards back in third place, tooling around all on his own at the moment, because the other dice is between fourth and fifth Colin Bond and Tony Longhurst. Over the top they come. Bowe holding down the lead as he has from the outset.
Of course, Tony Longhurst and Colin Bond continue their scrap. Here's Longhurst with the outside run this time. Can he get down? No, he switches the outside. And he'll try and come straight back underneath Colin Bond on the exit of this corner if he can possibly pull it. But Bond's a wise old head. He's driven a few laps here at Amaroo Park. He knows how to cover his tracks. But I tell you what, Tony is really giving him a run for his money.
It's good racing. Neither of the two of them have rubbed panels. Oh, up until about...
It was until he just biffed him right in the back.
Oh, what sort of crook timing was that, Crompton? That was terrible. They hadn't biffed panels anyway. I was going to say how clean they'd made their whole show. I'll shut my mouth next time.
Fluid kid.
Longhurst has gone through with his elbows up.
Well, that resolves that battle, and now it's up the front that the big fight's going on between Bauer and Seaton. By gee, there are some real scraps in this race. There they are.
Two races, as Gary mentioned before. The race for the lead between John Bauer and Glenn Seaton, and of course that scrap between Longhurst and Colin Bond. We'll try to cover both for you as they head down to the left-hander. So let's recap how they're running for you on the road. Number 10, John Bauer, race leader. Glenn Seaton horribly close to him in number 15.
4.5 laps remaining in the race. And it's Bauer leading. Seaton in second spot. And Jim Richards holding down third.
Back at Amaroo Park Raceway with about 2 3/4 laps remaining. And the scrap continues between John Bauer, the Volvo getting just a touch skaty in the last couple of laps. Could be feeling the pinch with tyres. Glenn Seaton still glued to the back bumper of the Valvoline Volvo as they come through Honda Corner. The Volvo again doing its three-wheel stagger act out of the corner. There's Freddie Gibson looking somewhat like Jim Neighbours. Golly.
Looking a bit worried. Where's his man going to find a gap? There haven't been too many at the moment. John Bauer noted for being very cagey when it comes to covering his ground. He's got the lead of the race at the moment. His car sliding around just a little bit. And Glenn Seaton will have to try and figure a way through.
With 2 laps remaining, positions unchanged. Bauer the race leader, Glenn Seaton in second, Jim Richards is third, Tony Longhurst is fourth, Colin Bond is fifth. 6th place will be held probably by Tony Cabbage and then Graham Bailey. But this is where the action is up front. Out of Honda Corner. Now, whether or not there's John Shepherd, the Volvo team manager, probably praying young John Bauer home at this stage. After setting up such a big lead and having it whittled away, 54.6. He's doing 54.3s a couple of laps back.
Well, Seaton braking a little later, keeping his boot in just a bit harder over the top. He's now got to within 1 car length of the leader, John Bauer. Jim Richards, as Mike said before, still in 3rd placing. So this is really going to end up being a very, very interesting finish at the end of the 20 laps. Through the right-hander at Mazda.
1 3/4 laps.
In fact, they are on their last lap at the moment. The board was shown to the drivers as they went through last time. So half a lap now remains. Can Seaton do something as they go down to the late corner for the last time? He does brake very late, gets a smidge closer, but I don't think it's going to be close enough. How does he get power to the ground? Pretty well. But as they come out of Wonderlick Corner and up towards the checkered flag, John Bauer will hang on and take victory in car number 10. Bauer from Glenn Seaton, and a long, long way back in 3rd place, Jim Richards in car number 1, who got in strife coming through Honda Corner before. Car bouncing around in the dirt. We saw it in the distance.
And of course, Tony Longhurst. Just recapping those placings for you. John Bauer, the winner in the Valvoline Volvo. 2nd to Glenn Seaton in the Peter Jackson Skyline. 3rd to Jimmy Richards, JPS BMW. Well, a good win for Johnny Bauer. Glenn Seaton, they brought their cars home intact this afternoon because they've still got a lot of hard racing to go for the remainder of the season. The Australian Touring Car Championship, of course, goes to round 9 at Winton Motor Raceway in Victoria next Sunday. Don't forget to join us for our 7 Sports special of round 9. Then a fortnight after that, the Castrol Grand Final. There's the Winton date, Sunday, June 29th. A big program. What a race that promises to be, in the Castrol Grand Final at Oran Park on Sunday, July 13th. And with George Fury and, of course, Robbie Francevic. I would think that we're in for a great finish to the championship Would you not agree, Neil Crompton?
I think it's going to be a tremendous finish. As you said a couple of times today, Mike, a head-to-head confrontation between the two leading turbo teams, Nissan and Volvo. They have had some magnificent duels all year. And I'm looking forward to next weekend when we go down to Winton. An interesting circuit, radically different to those that we've visited all year. Tight, twisty. It's a toss-up whether it's going to suit the lighter cars and whether or not the V8s are going to get power to the ground. There's all sorts of different equations, and that'll be fascinating. So that's one to look forward to. And, of course, there's some production car racing on down there and sports sedans. And we have our next round of the Australian Drivers' Championship for Mondial cars.
Well, the drivers, of course, returning to scale. I would think there'd be a few words between maybe Colin Bond and Tony Longhurst after that little incident. Yes, well, it was like this. I didn't mean to do it. The fact was you stopped. Well, I didn't really stop. You hit me, but they'll sort that lot out. They'll, of course, be joining the... yes, I don't think Bond is all that impressed. However, we hope you've enjoyed our telecast of round 4 of the Better Breaks AMSCAR Series from Sydney's Amaroo Park Raceway. On behalf of 7 Sports Team, we bid you farewell. We look forward to your company next Sunday from Winton, round 9 of the ATCC.